Bismillahirrahmanirrahim wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Peace and love. Welcome back to the Travelers Podcast. I'm so grateful that you're here. I'm so grateful that I'm here. I'm back on tour again. I am so on tour, I can't even put it in words. You know, I lived like this for 20 years almost. For 18 years, I lived on the road almost my whole adult life from the time I was 25 until now. And then for the last 2 years, haven't been able to do it. And so being back is, in a lot of ways, it's like, you know, a fish in water. It's like riding a bike. But also in a lot of ways, I'm seeing it through new eyes because of the time that I had away. So I'm really grateful for that. One of the things that I'm just been really noticing and appreciative of is, you know, I'm on this tour. We're mostly on the West Coast on this run, on the Travelers Tour. So we're celebrating and promoting the podcast as well. These things are part of the movement and the feeling that I just have in this moment, that us being co-travelers in life, there's so much division in the world and in our culture and in society, really in so many parts of life, that us just recognizing our shared humanity is extremely important. And it's a gift that artists offer that I'm really grateful to offer. So that's what the Travelers idea is for the podcast and for the tour, and also the song that I did back in 2009 with my man Ant on the Us album. This idea, we're co-travelers in life, and what we're doing, all the choices we're making, the beliefs we have, the decisions we make, they all affect other people, you know. And I think a lot of times we forget, or we don't always realize that all the things I'm doing and all the things I'm not doing are absolutely impacting and affecting the experience that other people are having. So this tour and this podcast are absolutely connected in that way. Being on the road again, especially on tour with Mally, the artist that's out with us, which is one of the rising stars and bright lights in the Twin Cities hip hop scene. It just really reminds me, watching him, how special we are in the Twin Cities, you know. And I think so much of that comes from really the guidance of Atmosphere and the example of Atmosphere. First of all, artists in the Twin Cities, hip-hop artists, MCs in the Twin Cities, you got to be just a thoroughbred rapper, MC. You have to be able to get on any mic or get in any cipher or any situation and command that thing. Your mastery of the craft itself has to be top-notch, to where even if your persona or your personality or the way you present yourself isn't normal, there's a lot of us that are different. You know, I'm obviously very different in any space I'm in. But no matter what your thing is or what your, you know, presentation is, you got to be able to have the chops on the microphone to be able to command any situation and environment that you find yourself in or that you insert yourself into. So you got to be able to come off the head. Chuck D on our episode with him talks about watching me and Slug go back and forth off the top of the head. He also talked about Idea in that Blaze battle in 2000, that just nobody can handle him, because his ability to come off the head and be in the moment and rebuttal everything that they're saying, it's just, you know, we do this at a very high level. But what Atmosphere really added to that was, on the songwriting side, we see ourselves as songwriters not only in the genre of hip-hop, but we want to be part of the legacy and lineage of great songwriters in all genres of music. So you have to tell stories. You have to be vulnerable. You have to, you know, bear things that are going on inside you. You got to be funny. You have to be touching. You got to have fun. You got to have all of these different textures and colors in your songwriting. But then also, as live performers, we're not limited to the inspiration of other hip hop artists in terms of the way we perform. We want to be great performers along with Prince and Dave Grohl and, you know, these amazing artists and entertainers and performers. You know, lately I've been studying Sammy Davis Jr. I just can't believe it. Like, man, Sammy Davis Jr., our whole life we saw him as a caricature, because by the time we came along, people were doing their impressions of Sammy Davis Jr. But just watching his impressions, his dancing, his movement, his joke, the way that he did almost stand-up comedy routines, and along with his singing and his insights and all of this stuff, social commentary, all of that. we aspire to be part of that lineage, that tradition, that legacy. So seeing Mali every night on stage, it's just like, man, that's who we are, you know, and I feel really grateful for that, especially because my relationship with the Twin Cities has been a complicated one over the past couple years. And so it really makes me feel good to be on this tour. Speaking of atmosphere, I went down to Florida to a festival called Reggae Rise Up. I was really blessed, fortunate, grateful to be invited to perform at this festival. Atmosphere performed the day before, so I got to catch up with them and talk with them. Sat up late at night, especially talking to Ant and Plano Bill, the DJ for Atmosphere and the producer. And man, Ant produced most of my albums, and so getting to spend time with them was really incredible. But man, the next day I get up and go to the festival, and it's called Reggae Rise Up. And it just really struck me that this has been brewing for a while. There's a whole genre and scene and I would say kind of like niche circle of artists that perform reggae music. And my guess is that they're inspired by some of the early white bands that were inspired by reggae. So maybe Sublime and 311 and No Doubt and, you know, Slightly Stupid. And there's others that I could probably name, you know, Pepper. People who are inspired by original roots and dancehall reggae music and that legacy. And there's some of the early artists that, you know, were performing, and many were accepted and validated by that community. But then there's another new generation of artists that were inspired by those. So these are white artists that were inspired by those first generation of white artists. And what I've noticed, and it really struck me when I was at Reggae Rise Up, is that now we have this scene of incredible artists who can sing and play, and their music is beautiful, and it just gives such good vibes, but almost entirely white circle of artists playing reggae music. And also the fans as well. Again, very welcoming, amazing, beautiful, open people. I love performing for them. You know, the vibe is so positive and the energy is so bright and magnificent, you know. I love performing in that space, and I love those bands. I love listening to their music. But, you know, so we get to Florida in particular. You know, when you go to Cali Roots, it's a little bit more diverse, but there was something about going to Florida in particular, and it, you know, it's not lost on me that this is the land of Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman and, you know, so many, that Florida is a very particular place when it comes to race relations, that almost everybody on stage is white and almost everybody in the audience is white. But then the crew, the security, the stagehands, the local people that are working, manual labor mostly, at the festival are almost all black. And of course, I'm always noticing that stuff. And so I'm performing my set, and nobody's saying anything about it. I perform my set, and we do our song, Uncle Sam Goddamn. And there are people in the audience that know my music. There are some very real supporters and listeners and fans. There are people saying every single word. And it made me feel really good always when I see that. But some of them might know who I am, but maybe I've never really listened to my music. Some of the people in this audience have no idea who I am, but they're all vibing, they're all rocking. It's a great experience. And we do Uncle Sam Goddamn, and at the end, the song ends, and I asked last word, I said, hold on a second. And I said, you know, I just have to say something about the fact that we're at a festival called Reggae Rise Up. What is reggae? And why is it so important and integral to reggae music to rise up? Well, reggae music is one of an entire legacy, one genre in a whole legacy of music that's created in this part of the world. And the music that's been created here is part of the legacy of, first of all, African people, who are the first people. And by nature of being the first mothers and fathers of all of the human family, are the first people to do art and science and music and culture and geometry and geography and astronomy and medicine and philosophy and all of these things that we benefit from. And then those people were captives. They were stolen from their land and brought to this part of the world, along with the genocide of the original people that happened. I'm saying all this in the music festival, and I'm always that dude, because it's like, I can't be here and not say anything. So I try to figure out the most beautiful way to say it, because I believe that these people are good. If I don't believe in the people that I'm speaking to and in what I'm saying, then I don't say anything. I gotta believe in what I'm saying, and I gotta believe that the people that I'm saying it to have enough care and concern and good and love and truth and desire for good inside them that it's worth saying it at all. So I'm trying to say it in a beautiful way that really conveys that, and so, but it is a bit of a jarring thing, which at a traditional reggae festival, it wouldn't be at all, So I'd say, well, then these people were brought as captives to this part of the world, to the Caribbean, to North and South America, and to the United States, and forced to build this country. And the tremendous growth in the economy of this country is due in large part to slave labor, to forced labor, and then created every genre of music that we have in this country, from the original spirituals to gospel music to blues, which goes into jazz, which goes into rock and roll, which goes into soul and disco and pop music and funk and hip hop and reggae music. So we say, reggae, rise up. What's the need to rise up that is so essential in reggae music? It's a good name for a reggae festival. But why is there a need to rise up? And what is it that we're rising up against? The need to rise up is the response to oppression of the legacy of slavery and then white supremacy. So there's an oppression. There's the people that are singing and creating this music are being held down. So the rise up is against domination, colonialism, against white supremacy. So that's the rise up. So I said, those are all beautiful things. I'm all about those things. Now, again, I'm a guest here. I'm not a reggae artist. I'm not part of this scene. I've collaborated with some of these bands, you know what I'm saying? I just did a song with the Elevators that I really like a lot. I got another one coming with a group called Tropidelic. I toured with Pepper. I love these dudes, you know what I'm saying? Like, I really genuinely do. And I love their music. And I like listening to it. And I like being at these things, but it's like, I'm not even I'm on the second stage. And so I said, I said, look here, we have an almost entirely white bill of artists and almost entirely white audience. So this can either be cultural theft and appropriation, and it can be a big minstrel show, or it can be a genuine reggae rise up. But that depends on you, and that depends on us, and that depends on how we decide to carry this out of here. Crickets, very quiet. Now, the people who know my music, they're like, yeah, and they're white. Most of those people are white. And again, it's not an entirely white crowd. You know what I'm saying? Some of my wife's, Puerto Rican family is there, and then also there are other people in the crowd. But then the security guards and the stagehand, I'm seeing them like, yes, you know what I'm saying? Brother, yeah, tell the truth, yeah, da. Very quiet, crickets. For the most part. And then a portion of the audience left, and they're like, I'm gonna go check out what's happening on the other stage. I ain't come here for this. But what really struck me is that afterwards, we go to catering and we're eating. And so there are other artists back there. That's the place where the artists go and hang out. And person after person after person, artist after artist after artist, and organizers these are the people that work at and on the festival and organize the festival and perform at it, what have you. They're all coming to me and saying, man, your set was dope. Thank you so much for what you said. Thank you so much for what you said. Thank you so much for what you said. And this is often the case when you're in a situation where you're the person who's saying this obvious elephant in the room truth that's not being spoken. And because you're thinking about like, am I going to be invited back? Is word going to spread, and am I going to be seen as a person who's difficult and who's, is this going to be taken as a diss to the people who invited me? Because I certainly don't mean it that way, But then all these people behind the scenes are saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. And to each one of them, I said, oh, if you also, so either you had this observation already and, me saying it sparked it in you, or you didn't think of it. But either way, it had the ring of truth to you. It resonated with you. So what you can do is when you're on the stage and when you make these decisions, you can say something about it as well. And it's just a major reflection, that I have and that I want to share here because I have this platform to do it. When a person is able to find the courage, the conviction, the character, the virtue in themselves to speak a truth that's not popular, when a person steps out there like that, they're making a tremendous sacrifice. And I've experienced over and over and over again being the only person that does that. Part of that, there's several difficulties in that. One is that if I'm the only one saying this, I will likely make mistakes. I might overstate certain things. I might exaggerate certain things. There may be mistakes that I make because I need others to be saying this as well, so that we can see our reflections in one another. Maybe someone else will say it in a more nuanced, balanced, and maybe even more true way than I will. You know what I'm saying? I make a lot of mistakes in trying to tell the truth and trying to say the things that I say because oftentimes I feel like I'm the only one saying them. And there are so many times when I've been in situations and said these things, and then people are quiet, they clam up in that moment, and then afterwards come and thank me later. And so what I'm acknowledging, and it's such a reminder to myself, that when someone makes a sacrifice to tell the truth, it's really important to, at the very least, support and echo that person in the space that they're saying it. You know what I mean? Somebody else could, even if they can't make words around that, for somebody else to get up and say, hey, and even if they don't mention me, they could say like, hey, somebody mentioned here, that this is Black music and that we want to hold on to the spirit to rise up against oppression. And to fight, and whether we find ourselves in the group that's the oppressed or the oppressor, we want to always fight oppression. Something. I'm very, very grateful for this episode and for our artists, for our guests that we have with us today. What do we say about Maimouna Youssef, a.k.a. Mumu Fresh? She's an Afro-Indigenous singer, songwriter, producer, engineer, educator, healer, facilitator, ambassador. Maimouna, and she's a dear friend of mine. I'm very, very grateful. Maimouna is one of those people that, like, if you know her, then you exist in her universe. She said in her song with Toby and Wigway, I'm a galaxy, but for short, you can call me your majesty. Like, she is truly a galaxy. There's people that find out about me all the time and my circle of artists. And it's like, I had no clue you even existed. And now I'm finding this, like, 20 years of music of, like, Brother Ali and Merce and, you know what I'm saying, and all the Atmosphere and all these other artists that they're just finding out about, Immortal Technique, etc. And Maimouna is that way. So if you're not aware of her and of the amazing work that she does, you're in for a lot. She got her first Grammy nomination with The Roots on the song. She sang the chorus, "It don't feel right, it don't feel right." She was on Dave Chappelle's Block Party. She did Black Thought's Tiny Desk concert on NPR with him, and then he came back and did hers with her. She's toured the world with Common. If you see Common on stage, you absolutely experienced her singing and rhyming alongside Common, especially in the last several years. Super producer Salam Remy, who worked on everybody from Nas to Amy Winehouse. She has a song on his 2020 album called Black on Purpose. She had a viral moment with Toby and Wigway on Tunda Fire recently, which is super incredible. She stole the show at the Black Girls Rock Awards. Her latest album is called Queen of Culture. Like I said, she's an ambassador, a U.S. ambassador, cultural ambassador for the State Department. She landed a lead role in Black Thought's upcoming Broadway musical called Black No More. She's got a song in the hit movie Girls Trip. So she's done all these amazing things. It's just there's so many of us that the light hasn't hit us in the right way yet for it to translate into like a mainstream crossover moment. And a lot of the people on this podcast are going to be that way because that's my crew, along with the Chuck D's and the Cornel Wests and the Rakims and other people, you know, that do have a bigger platform. A lot of the people that I share and do life with and am inspired by are people like this. But along with all of those professional things and artistic and creative things that Maimouna does, she also is an educator and a healer. And during the pandemic, she launched Maimouna University, Mumu U. I have all these different names that I call it, but a learning platform where she teaches artists how to put themselves on. Basically, she's had all of these introductions and all of these kind of overlaps with the music industry, but she is deeply independent. And she's one of the people that inspires me so much, not only on the mic, but with her management of her own career. Also as a mother, and with all of the different roles that and hats that she wears in life. This is one of the most incredible people. You know, during the pandemic, like I said, she launched this learning platform, but along with all these other things that she does, she decided, you know, I can't necessarily go to the studio. I'm going to go ahead and get licensed and certified to be an audio engineer so that I can record myself, mix my own records, master my own records, and do that for other people as well. She's one of these people that's just like anybody that has complaints about what other people in the industry or what other artists aren't doing for them, anybody that points their finger at successful artists and calls them gatekeepers, any of us that walk around here living with excuses or with complaints, Maimouna is one of those people that's here to shatter all of that. And I'm extremely grateful to have her on the show. We're brought to you, as always, by Zakat Foundation. We're also brought to you by Resma Menachem and his new book, The Quaking of America. Also by Vice Gerent, makers and merchants of fine men's tailored clothing. And also by UPF, Unity Production Foundation. Enjoy this episode of the Travelers Podcast. I want to start with the bars of the last 2 years. My favorite bars that anybody spit in the last 2 or 3 years. Good morning, sunshine. Welcome to reality. Try to wake you, Jews waited so sleeping so peacefully in your... Got 7 uncolonized names to explain my gallantry. I'm a galaxy. But for sure, you can call me your majesty. Can you start with the 7 names?
Oh, okay. I'm gonna tell you my name. They're my real names. My only drawback of telling people my names is that I don't like when people start calling me, choose which names they want to call me by. Mm-hmm. Because also my mother had a naming ceremony for me when I was, a newborn. And so my family members gave me names for my journey, like names that they thought would help me in the struggle that I was going to be, incarnated into this world, this wild world that we live in, and the different things that I would need, as well as attributes that they thought I represented. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say it real fast, okay, as like one sentence.
Okay, and nobody's got permission to start calling everybody's other names. You don't know
right.
Mumu
you don't
fresh
know me
like that. Yes,
no,
you don't know.
Don't.
Yes, all right.
So it's Maimouna Kwayero o la Tutuha Loka Hanan Hassan. Youssef is my last name. Exactly.
So do you and Toby and Wigway have like competitions, like name competitions? Like, because I've heard him spit his name too.
We have not.
It's crazy. Our 13-year-old has 5 names. Yes. And everybody's always like, yo, you Muslim converts, man, save some names for the other babies. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to name them every name.
We do though. We do. And what's funny? Because my mother always told me that when, hold on. Ooh. Come on back now. Come on back to me. Come on back to my place. That's the light. Come on back the light. Come on over to my space. So my mom told me when she was putting my name on the birth certificate that, the woman who was filling out my paperwork, she just kept shaking her head. And then finally she looked up and said, why would you do this to her?
Her hand was just like... Hold on.
Like, why would you give her this kind of name? Now she's never going to be able to get a job. And my mother said, oh, I hope not. I hope she's unemployable.
Man.
Oh, that woman was so disgusted with my mother. And but look, here I am, a boss. You gotta be a boss with a name like that.
That's right. That's right. So speaking of your mother, I want to talk about, your new album is Queen of Culture. Yeah. And, you're an inheritor. You have a prayer for the Most High. Thank you for resilience. I'm not one in a million. I'm from a lineage of brilliance. And it's real, like you really are, so many of us talk about ancestors and we want to like carry on the traditions of the past. We talk about, maintaining culture and things like that. But in the modern time, actually having continuity and having like a living chain of reference to those things is so rare. And it's becoming more and more rare that we actually have living links and that we are living links. And so I want to talk a little bit about your mother and your grandmother, but how far back do you know in your family?
In terms of who I met or who I'm familiar with, their stories.
Names you know, stories you know.
Yeah. 4 generations back. So yeah, my great grandmother, I know stories about her. Annie is her name. And she's my great grandmother. Yeah, my great grandmother is Grandma Carrie. And then my grandmother is Mountain Eagle woman. And then she has a lot of sisters. So I've also heard all the stories of Aloja and of, Annie and all her other sisters. They were, as my mother would call them, wild chapatulas.
Wild chapatulas.
They were women, who carried shotguns with them.
Okay.
And knives, what I mean? And was just not to be played with. So I've grown up hearing their stories and just how self-autonomous they were. I always hear my mother say, I'm sovereign. That's my mother's favorite thing to tell you, is that I'm sovereign. I'm a sovereign nation. She is her own nation, unto herself. Living in my mother's house, like, I didn't really understand how other Americans lived until I moved out of my mother's house. Because it was nothing like how other people lived, and they would never understand how I lived, inside of my mom's world, really. We lived a very indigenous lifestyle, and not just traditional indigenous, because my mother, what are we gonna do about this? This just don't want to let us be great. Let me get this light together. My mother, she created the world that she wanted us to live in. Is one of the reasons that she decided to homeschool. She's a powerhouse. She's a real force. And I mean, I can't ever talk about myself without first talking about her, because she's really a pioneer and a forerunner. Like, she really took what she was given from the generations before, but molded it and shaped it into something new. She made it global and universal and timeless. And she gave that to me, and I've been running with it. But I can never talk about myself without first paying her homage, because she's a seer, and it is lonely when you're a seer, when you see things the way that other people can't see them, and they will swear to God that you're crazy until those things come to pass. Right. And then it becomes the trend, but at the time that you spoke it, you were a nut job,
Right. Yeah. I mean, like you said on the song with Toby, like welcome to reality, suddenly everyone's talking about the things that you and your mother and grandmother and how long have been talking about these things. This like holistic approach to culture. Like when we talk about Queen of Culture, like we've started throwing the word culture around. Some people use it almost interchangeably with like the music industry or like, pop culture or something like that.
Do.
But coming from this perspective of, being born of and raised by, and then being a representative of these women that are healers. I mean, so your mother, we know her as Mama Natasha, and also grandmother walks on water. Rami called her G-Wow. I never heard that. Grandmother walks on water. G-Wow, that's crazy. That's dope. I want to get her like a four-finger ring. That's like G-Wow.
That'll be crazy.
That'll be hard. But, how would you explain a more holistic expression, a more traditional expression of what culture really is and what it means?
Yeah, that's a good one. I'll say growing up, when we said someone was from the culture, it meant that they were awakened. They were aware. They knew their history, and not just their own history. They knew it in relationship to other histories that had come in contact with theirs. They understood their origins. They understood when we lost our way, why we lost our way. They had knowledge of self. I was raised around not just Muslims and several factions of Muslims, right? Because my mother, she converted into Islam in the first resurrection with Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And then she went with his son, Wafdi Muhammad, to the American Muslim mission. And then I grew up in a Sunni masjid, which was like that next really kind of 2 generations removed from Elijah Muhammad. But there were also at the same time, I grew up with kids who were in the Hebrew Israelite community and in the 5%er community and in the Agniculture community and the Asara Set community, the Kemetic, and just the whole Black yoga communities and some Pan-Africanists, the children of the Black Panther Party and the Black Liberation Army. Like, we all was together, kind of like a subculture. I always say we lived under the floorboards. We are very much a part of the underworld. We really are. And I didn't know it because that's my whole life until I went above ground in the music industry. And I realized like most people don't live like that. They don't know what we know. They didn't, grow up like veganism is like this new phenomenon. When I was a kid, most people I knew were vegan or, were following Dr. Sebi. I met Dr. Sebi as a kid. I met Dr. Goss as a kid. My mother would take me out to these places out in Arizona where we would bake our food in the sun. Like, we wouldn't cook any food because it killed the nutrients in the food. And so, she was thinking like this in the 80s and in the 90s. She was really cognizant about the clothes that we wore, the images. Like, we couldn't wear any name brand designers, any European designers. I mean, not even like, your polos and your Timberlands. We couldn't bring it in her house. It could not happen. It had to be cultural, like made by someone indigenous or African, or she might make it, or my grandmother might make it. It was really like a thing. And of course, my older brothers, that was like a hard thing for them wanting to be in the streets and be cool. Right. And you got to wear something that's crocheted or something made with some Guatemalan.
Can I just get a pair of feelers, please? Can I just get one Jordan suit, please?
And her my dad, they compromised on Kalkanai. We could wear Kalkanai, okay?
Yeah, all right.
But she was so committed to it. She was so committed to it and really meant it. And most of the people I knew who grew up we were homeschooled, or either sometimes we went to the Muslim school or we went to like a Pan-Africanist school. But it was like a completely different way of thinking. And when I finally went to public school, they gave me a 0 for all my years of studying culture. They told me it was completely irrelevant. It was useless in the real world. I couldn't use it to get a college degree. And here I am, like, my mom would give me a class credit for like building the sweat lodge. I would put the post hole diggers, find the trees, pray, before we cut the trees down, just out of respect for life. You know what I mean? You don't take life without asking for permission and showing an honor there for that exchange. I would help my grandmother plant herbs in the garden. I would help her pray, help her clean, like I would get class credit for all of that. So my transcript was like, learning to build a sweat lodge. Hey,
how to heal with herbs.
Right. Laying hands and exercising the negative spirits. Yeah, no, I got a 0 for all of that.
Cleansing energy.
Right. All of that. But it was when I got into, public school. Yeah, but it was funny because I spent most of my time doing it. I didn't spend my time reading like textbooks. A lot of the kind of, white American heroes, I didn't even know who they were because we didn't study them. And my mom wanted us to be self-referring first. She said, learn about yourself first and then learn about everybody else so that you are the center of your reality and your history and your truth.
That's
you don't learn about yourself as a subsidiary, a marginalized, add on to their narrative. You don't. You start with yourself first. And that's how we were raised. And it really does create a very self-referring mentality.
You talk about being Afro-Indigenous And that's like a new term for a lot of people. But the reality is that most African people are mixed with indigenous people and vice versa.
Especially on the East Coast. If your family has been living on the East Coast, for 100, 200 years, it's hard for you not to be, especially if you lived around tribal lands. There's not and this is something I definitely want to create in cinema one day, is the relationship between the plantations and the native villages. And also that many people who were recognized, amongst their tribes as indigenous were also enslaved. You understand what I'm saying?
That's right. Yeah.
And there was a recategorization of of native people on the East Coast, right? To colored, so that they couldn't have associational attachment claims to the land. When some of the earliest documentations of European settlers, when they explain how native people looked when they met them, they said they looked like Ethiopians. They called them dark angels. They were talking about the Tuscarora, the Meharan, the Okanichi Saponi, and to them, they were akin to how they felt, thought Africans looked. So, and you're people who live outside. Why would you not be brown? So
that goes back even before, the enslavement. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's so much evidence that Mansa Musa's brother, Mansa Kankan Abu Bakr, brought thousands of ships from West Africa before to the shores of what's now known as America, long before Europeans were ever there. And there's Mandinka words in Lakota language and vice versa. And you see things like, shells and things like that showing up in both cultures. So I mean
especially my first time going to South Africa and looking at their beadwork, it looks just like the Apache stitch. And I was talking to the vendor. I said, "Where'd you learn how to do this stitch?" "My grandmother taught me this." She said, "No, my grandmother taught me this." I said, "Well, what do you call this?" And she told me the name. I can't remember the name. I said, "Well, I call this Apache stitch." It's the same exact stitch. So it's really interesting. We definitely, were connected and crossed paths at one time, because that's how you normally can tell where culture is like by their beadwork, their food, different things like that. Yeah. And so we're definitely very connected. The term Afro-Indigenous has a lot of different meanings, different places. When I hear natives in Canada say it, they normally are talking about a person who's first generation African, like one of their parents is from the continent. And, one parent from, say, Nigeria, and another one, maybe it's Anishinaabe. But that's different from East Coast natives. Most of us who are Black Indians have been Black Indian for like 100 years, and it's a different experience. It's also different. It's harder to categorize. A lot of our tribes were, the government won't recognize. They won't allow you to be recognized. They decide who's a tribe and who's not. Right. The government banned the Nottoway from being able to be recognized as a tribe. They just decided you're not Indian, so keep it moving. They shipped a lot of the Nottoway to the West Indies, for slavery. So it's on the East Coast, especially like the Southeast, it's really difficult to prove your native heritage, and even the idea of having to prove it is some BS. Right. Because who are you proving it to? The same people that, what I mean? They're trying to strip you of your culture.
And what's your heritage? And prove your heritage. Where did you come from? And who gave you the ability to bang gavels and give sentences and tell people what's what and draw lines and rename stuff and set up schools that people have to go to? And
I think what's important, because a lot of people ask me, a lot of people who identify as African American who say, "Look, I know, before my grandmother died or great grandmother died, she told me that we were from this tribe or that tribe, but I don't really have a way of connecting back." And, it is really tough to do so. And I'll tell you, a lot of tribes, even for people who grew up on the res, or even for city Indians, but who know the lineage, who might be a part of, registered, with their tribe, it's still really difficult to connect back and to reclaim the culture. For one, it was illegal until the late 1970s, so everybody's trying to reconnect. But if you grew up around, your family who understood, who might have spoken the language, because a lot of languages were outlawed, there's been so much theft of culture. A lot of people who know the culture don't want to share it, because it's like all you have left. And then also there's a lot of anti-Blackness, there's a lot of white mentality, that kind of like anti-Black white mentality that is very much a part of, has infiltrated Native communities. most Native people were forced into Christianity through the boarding schools or with missionaries prior to that. Mm-hmm. And, whenever your God don't look like you, you already going to have a complex,
Yeah. Yeah.
So they did a number on all of us. We were all severely colonized, and it's we are still trying to figure out how to find our way out of that colonial mentality. I mean, our food, the way we relate to each other, our relationships, like every aspect of who we are. That's why you see so many Native people using this hashtag decolonize. That's everything, like that is everything about how we think, how we live, how we interact, our opinions, our biases, all of that is colonized. It's not ours. It's not the way we thought 200 years ago, 300 years ago. And so what I mostly tell a lot of people who are looking to reconnect, I say, get some land, get back to the earth. Get back to the earth. That's where the root of it is. Put your hands in the soil, start planting, start growing things. Ask your ancestors, talk to them in the spirit realm, ask them to guide you back to what your practices were, who you're supposed to connect back with to find yourself. What I appreciated the most about my mom and grandmother is that in the 70s, when it became legal again for us to practice the culture, they went back to find it. By the time I was born, my mother, they were already participating in powwows. My mother did her vision
how
quest.
did they know where to start? Like, how do you even begin a journey like that?
There were a lot of Natives who were part of the longest walk, who were fighting back to be able to relearn the culture and to make it legal. And so after 1978, when the Freedom of Religion Act was passed for Native people just started communing again, having powwows. And there was an Indian Center in Baltimore that opened up, so we joined the Indian Center there. And then we started connecting with other Indian centers throughout the country, the Meherrin and the Tuscarora, all up and down the East Coast. We went out to the Gathering of Nations and in New Mexico and just started reconnecting that way. My mom had a teacher, Gilly Running, from Rosebud Reservation, who took her as his student. And so I learned, a lot of Lakota culture because they were able to really hold on to a lot of their culture longer than a lot of the East Coast tribes, especially ones who don't have reservations anymore. Because it took them a longer time. It took the settlers, the colonial powers, a longer time to get out. And they're warriors, right? A lot of the southern tribes are farmers, So the tribes they call civilized, like my tribe, a Choctaw tribe, they're farmers. So they're not trying to have a whole war, They're like, how do we work this out together? And so they assimilated. We got to make sure
these crops are ready because when they come, we have to be, yeah.
Well, they assimilated, they tried to fight back, but they assimilated a lot more because it wasn't there. They weren't like a warrior tribe like that. And so a lot of the East Coast tribes are super integrated, are very much mixed. They're very much mixed with Black, mixed with white, and so to me, I feel like the most important part of reclaiming your culture is reconnecting with the ceremony, reconnecting with the earth, decolonizing your food, the way you think about things. That's where I would start with reconnecting. Like I just signed up for this course online to relearn my language. And I said, man, once I speak my language, I'm gonna be so petty. First of all, I'm not even gonna speak English anymore. I'm gonna have somebody translate for me. I'm gonna get a dude from South Central translate. I'm gonna get somebody from West Baltimore to translate for me. And I'm just like, we're never gonna speak in English again. Yeah. I can't wait.
Amazing. So what about, the relationship with the body? Like, I know that, it's no exaggeration to say that you and the women that your lineage of women, that you're educators and you're healers. And so much of the work that you do, even with teaching people, and you have programs where you help mothers really foster their creativity and create space to be artists and talk about the reclamation of breath and the reclamation of the body and reclamation of the voice and the story and all of these things. And so often we talk about these subjects, we're talking about a mentality and we're talking about a way of thinking, but so much of the work that you do is in the body. And I wonder if you could just share about the necessity of arriving in one's body and decolonizing the body.
Yeah. I think the breath is a big part of that. We always start, when I'm teaching, I always start with the breath. It's a concept I've heard my mother talk about my whole life, about the power of the breath. Centering yourself is the only thing you can't, survive without. You can go without food and without water for a period of time, but if you can't go without breath, and that's what's anchoring us here on this planet. And it allows us to kind of take inventory of our bodies, of what's going on inside of our bodies, scanning our bodies, like deciding what's going on inside of there. What are the organs saying to us? Your breath is what gets you through labor when you're giving birth, So we always start there because the main thing that we're decolonizing is our sense of self, and the fact that we have been made to believe for generations and generations that our bodies belong to someone else. As artists, we definitely experience this, the enslavement of our bodies, So when we are trying to liberate ourselves, that's the first thing that we have to liberate, is the way we feel about our bodies, is the breath inside of us. It's like when I hear my mother say, I'm a sovereign nation, I know what she's talking about. That's on every level, And when I'm working with mothers in particular who are used to sacrificing everything for everybody, in particular, women who grow up in religions that tell you that your body belongs to your husband, and then it belongs to your child, and it belongs to any and everybody else but you. That's a really important step, is that reclamation, of ownership of your own body. And, it takes it a step deeper in our tradition. Like, your moon time is a really important time. It's not looked at as something dirty, where in some cultures, women are made to feel like their blood is not sacred and it's not holy and it's something dirty to be ashamed of. And our culture is like completely different. We spend time on your moon. Like, when I was growing up, I didn't have to do dishes on my moon. I didn't have to go to school on my moon. I didn't have to do anything, I was taken care of. My mom, cooked, or my sisters or brothers, whatever, would cook and take care of me. And that's a time where you dream and you pray, you're releasing. And we have moon lodges. So you'll sit on the earth, and give back to the soil, And so it's a different way. It's a different way of experiencing yourself, right? In this fast-paced world, it's like, oh God, I'm on my period. How inconvenient. Let me go throw this thing on and rush to my busy day to go, do all this extraneous work because, we don't look at it as a sacred time, a time that we're supposed to stop and supposed to listen. We're supposed to be in tune with the moon, the cycles of the moon and the cycles of the ocean. And, we're not looking at it like that, but we're missing opportunities to really hear from God and to be connected to all of God's other creation. It's a whole different way of living. It's a whole different mindset. It will change everything about how you see yourself in the rest of the world, how you show up in the world, how you show up for yourself. It will change everything about that, So we're really just trying to offer perspective, and that's what culture is. That's what culture is. It's a different way of seeing yourself in relationship to your community, in relationship to God. And we learn how to do that through these cultural practices. There's a reason that this stuff is passed down, how to breathe, how to pray, how to different ceremonies, water. These are rituals that just put us back in touch. Why in the morning? Why do we go outside and ground? Like now you can find a trendy magazine that are like grounding for 10 minutes to, tap back in. And it's something we've been doing for 1 million years. Yeah. We only got to tap in because we tapped out because of this, how toxic this culture is, So that's what we just, my mom taught me that. And so it's something I always add to all of my classes. I started teaching for artists in the music industry, just trying to help us find a way to survive. A lot of us are not surviving, it looks like we're surviving and we're not doing well. And so I started for other artists, heal the healers. Yeah. And then as I'm doing the classes, I'm realizing like, wait, we got to go back to basics. Let's go back. And so I created all these other classes when I started realizing, we need this and we need that and we need this and we need that, So the classes just grew from there.
I've definitely looked to you and leaned on you pretty heavily, like when I've been, out on tour for a year and I'm like, yo, my body is messed up, my voice is messed up, my emotions are crazy, I can't sleep. And you told me one time something that really stuck with me. I was asking you specifically about the voice because I struggle a lot with my voice. And, and I've been to doctors and things. And so you were, telling me all these herbs and tinctures and things like that. And so I'm sitting there like, writing these things down. I'm like, all right, in the morning, I'm gonna go to Whole Foods. I'm gonna get all the things that Maimouna said to get, and I'm gonna be good. And then you were like, but okay, it was like a half hour of that. And then you're like, but you wanna know what it really is? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I do. Like that sounds, can I just buy these things instead? And you were like, if your state is acidic, if you're holding, anything other than love for yourself, for your family, for your community, for other people, like if your state isn't balanced and isn't nurtured and isn't nurturing and isn't loving, if you're in a less than loving place based on either something that you're not getting or not receiving or not giving or something, that's really what's causing all of this. So you can treat the instrument itself, but really the heart is where that's going to emanate from.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I don't even remember telling you that, but it's true. It's true. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I'm thinking now at the time, I'm not sure the year, but I would imagine it must be somewhere around 2014 or something like that, because I went through a time period of losing my voice. And, I did the physical stuff, but on the metaphysical level, part of the throat chakra is about communication, being able to speak your truth. And I was in a relationship where I didn't feel comfortable speaking my truth. I was more concerned about his feelings than I was about speaking my truth. And it created a blockage for me. And I had to work through that. And not just that relationship, there were other relationships within the business that I was engaging in where I wasn't being honored, and it was causing resentment that showed up in my body as acid reflux. Acid reflux on a metaphysical level is the body not being able to stomach swallowing the disrespect anymore, swallowing the indignation, like, and not feeling like you can say, stop, no, you can't do that to me, and so when you don't feel like that you can say no, and you're like, I guess I gotta, all right, well, all right, I'll go ahead and, because it's probably going to be good in the long run. When you stomach things that you shouldn't, right, it causes acidity inside of the body, and it will have a physical manifestation. And nothing got my attention like losing my voice. Then I was like, oh, okay, God, what'd you say? I wasn't listening before. What'd you say? And I had to change all those situations. And I saw my voice come back. I had to get out of those relationships. I had to say, hey, no, that's less than my value. Hey, look, you can't say that around me. You can't do that around me. You can't. Hey, look, that's not going to happen anymore. Okay. And when I was able to really set those boundaries and, being a Pisces, right, that's like, that's something that our sign we struggle with, right? Because we want everyone to be happy, like, right. So we struggle with setting loving boundaries with people, right? When I was able to set those boundaries, though, I was able to heal my acid reflux. My voice came back, and I just was happier overall. When I wasn't trying to make everyone else happy at my expense, when I wasn't putting myself last, to cater to everyone else. And because it's weird when you want to make people happy, so you're stomaching things that you shouldn't, but on the inside you're really, really angry and resentful. So now you're just swallowing all of the stuff. It's not even your stuff. Yes, give it back to them. This don't even belong to me. What am I harboring?
I'm returning this.
Yes,
it doesn't fit.
Yep, return to sender. This ain't for me. And that solar plex energy where you would push forward, that gets really blocked and it jams back up on itself. And that's what we're seeing. And it rises all the way up from that stomach energy. It rises all the way up to the esophagus, and it burns the esophagus. All of that anger inside of the belly, feeling like I didn't get my just due, feeling like y'all got over on me this time. I got to stomach that again. You know what I mean? Stomaching that kind of disrespect and disregard, it's just not healthy. It's better to nip it in the bud. We shouldn't take that on. And it manifests.
Are you able to ascertain or just kind of discern in the audience, when the audience is cheering and the audience is clapping, it always feels like there's an element of genuine love and admiration and adoration there. But there also is like, some of the times that I've gotten the best response, like there's been times when I've been on stage and my voice is almost completely gone. Yeah. And like there's almost no sound coming out. And I'm standing there and the engineer's got the mic turned all the way up and I'm trying, but like nothing is coming out. You know what I mean? And there's times where I'm like, I shouldn't be here right now. Like I'm probably, that movie, The Wrestler, where like the dude gets to the end of it and he's like, he basically dies still trying to go out there and put the show on. And there are times when the audience, like when I've been in those, there's maybe 5 of them that I can remember in my life, and the audience is eating it up. And it almost makes me wonder, I can't tell if that's because, they're loving my dedication, or if there's a part that's like, oh, he's hurting himself to you know what I mean? I feel like if I was in that position, I feel like I would just put my hand on the person's shoulder and be like, hey, you don't have to rap today. Like, you don't have to rap. Like, you should be sleeping and drinking water, and like, you should probably be you probably need to hold your children. You're like, you might need
that's
a
not
hug
how this culture isn't like that. I was looking at and you can see like some of the Olympics that happened recently, right?
Yeah,
when with Simone Biles,
yes,
how they tore her apart for just taking care of herself, for her trying to protect her well-being, her longevity of being able to walk. You know what I mean? What's the other girl? Naomi Osaka, when she needed to protect her mental health, how they tore her down for that. They said, no, you're a sacrificial lamb, especially for artists. Is, hey, get out here and dance. Get out here and sing. Right. I don't care how you feel, Yeah. But that's how we're taught to feel that way. We're taught that that's dedication until I die, We're taught that way, that means you're really committed. Till the wheels fall off. Yeah, till the wheels sleep when I die, till the wheels fall off. All of those mantras are unhealthy. That's why some of our heroes aren't here right now. That's why some of our heroes are very unhealthy, why they're not in a great mental, spiritual, emotional place.
It's really important to me on the Travelers Podcast that the people and organizations that we partner with are people that I know, that I love, that I care about, that I actually feel good about. I really hope the day doesn't come where I have to, keep the lights on at the podcast by talking about these big corporations that I just don't know. No shade, no tea, no hate on any of them. They might be great. A lot of them are probably great. But I want to highlight things that I know and people that I care about and things that I believe in and that I know are legit. And I'm really honored and grateful to be partnering to this point with Zakat Foundation. Zakat, Z-A-K-A-T, is the pillar in the Islamic faith and tradition of giving back, of sharing, of contributing to good work that uplift the dignity and humanity of people all over the world. Zakat Foundation operates in every region of the world, and their work is really, really incredible. If you heard earlier episodes, we were really highlighting and spotlighting their work to support orphans around the world because it's groundbreaking. And, they have people in these environments and in these communities that make sure that the support and the resources really go to the people who need them the most, and that it's done in a way that really is dignified and is really honoring the people themselves. So I talked a lot about that program, but we're getting close to Ramadan, which is a time of immense charity for Muslims. But it's really important to know that Zakat Foundation is an Islamic-led organization, but they don't only help Muslims, and they don't use this work to proselytize. This is an obligation for our community specifically. And one of the things that I've started to notice is that non-Muslim organizations are starting to kind of appropriate the idea of zakat. They know that Muslims, any Muslim who makes more than what they need, even if it's by $1, we owe zakat at least every year. And it's something that's an obligation in our religion, the same way praying and fasting and going to Mecca and all these other things are. So there are other organizations that are starting to appropriate this idea and this reality. So, I won't say their names, but I think it's really important for us, both for Muslims and then also for non-Muslims, to really understand that Zakat Foundation, the work that they do and the manner in which they do it is incredibly beautiful. They do things like help with water security around the world, food security, people that are in danger, people that have needs around things like education and opportunities and clothing and shelter. They support orphans, they support women, they support families, they support minority communities that are experiencing, oppression all over the world. And so follow them on social media. It's the best way to keep up with what they're doing. Zakat US. You can also go to zakatfoundation.org online and check out their work. And what I'm saying in supporting them and partnering with them, in highlighting and focusing them on this podcast, is that this is an organization that, as much as anybody can vouch for and ride for a charitable organization, I ride for Zakat Foundation. I believe in them. That's where I do a lot of my charitable giving, and really honored to be partnered with them on the Travelers Podcast. There are certain names that come up on this show, on this podcast, over and over and over again. Dr. West comes up a lot. Amir Suleiman comes up a lot. Dave Chappelle probably comes up a lot. But one of the names that comes up quite often is Resmaa Menakem. Resmaa, Resmaa. Resmaa is a therapist who comes to therapy through the door of social work, which my wife also is in the same profession. But Resmaa focuses primarily on trauma and the relationship between trauma and the body. That trauma in the body causes these reactions of fight and flight and freeze. And over time, if we're not able to address these traumatic experiences, those responses, instead of being momentary, they actually become long-term states that we start to inhabit. And what Resmaa says is that trauma over time in an individual can start to look like personality. Trauma over time in families and communities can start to look like culture, but it's actually trauma. Resmaa spent time in Afghanistan working with troops. He came back and spoke and has written extensively about this. He has a New York Times bestseller called My Grandmother's Hands. He's been on Oprah and Dr. Phil and The Breakfast Club and all of these amazing programs doing this work. But what Resmaa is focusing on that I think is so incredible is the relationship between trauma and race, is particularly in America, and the relationships that our bodies have with the highly charged subject of race, the myth and lie of white supremacy, of white body, and the reality of white body advantage, in a white supremacist culture. These are things that Resmaa talks about with both a balance of deep, courageous truth-telling, but also with love and with a focus on healing. Again, he's a therapist, he's a healer. Resmaa has a new book coming out in April called The Quaking of America. It's an embodied guide to how to heal and how to survive the racial climate that we're in right now. And again, he's got beautiful, amazing advice that's so necessary for the conversation. We're really looking forward to having Resmaa on the program soon. But go to resmaa.com, resmaa.com. Pre-order your copy. You can also get his book called My Grandmother's Hands. That book is also an audiobook on Audible. It's got exercises that a person can go through, can take themselves through to just come to learn to understand our bodies better and our responses to the highly charged subject of race in the world that we live in. But head to resmaa.com, pre-order that new book, The Quaking of America, and we're very grateful to be in partnership with our brother, Resmaa Menakem. Travelers Podcast is supported by the people who we have as sponsors and as partners, and I'm super grateful for all of them. These are people that I know and love and believe in, and I've benefited from these services myself and participated in them, so I'm really happy. And it's really dope when you step out to do something new like this, and I'm still really new at podcasting. I listen to these podcasts, and I love when the guests talk, because I think that they get to be a version of themselves that they don't always get to be in public. I feel really good about that. When I talk, I'm hearing myself and I'm like, oh my God, you need to, come on, man. I'm hearing everything that I want to improve upon. You know what I'm saying? Which is a beautiful thing. But I'm very, very grateful that stepping into this new space that these friends of mine, the people that I share life with and I'm in community with, have come on as supporters. It really means a lot. Along with these sponsors and these partners, we have something that we call a caravan, which if you go to brotherali.com in the section called Join, there's a caravan, what we call a caravan, which is basically the people who come together around this music and these podcasts and the learning series and the writing and the different things that we do at Travelers Media, inspiring them. And there's a connection between people that grows and actual relationships between people and ultimately a community that of people that are united by what we're able to offer here. And it's important that you know that you're absolutely part of what we do. So much of what I do is shaped by the way that people respond to it and the things you say to me and the things that you share with me and the ways that you talk about interacting with my music and my writing and my teaching and my podcasting and all of it. And there are people that have come into my life through this door. And there are people who have met at our shows and in our comment sections and, you know, that become lifelong friends and people that have got married. There are children in the world named Ali and Aliyah and named after my children and named after my teachers and, you know, people who have matching tattoos and just real deep life connections based on what we've been able to offer. I know that that's not me. Some people might look and say, well, you're so amazing. The reality is that the creator, the source of all this stuff, gave me these words. The creator put these things into the world. I play my part and I hope to be a good custodian and servant of the gift. But then also all the things that happen in my life, I'm not the author of those to get me to the point of writing those songs. All the things that happen in your life to get you to the point where that music would speak to you. And then for us to come together and for people to join together, it's all a gift from the creator. It's all a gift from Allah. It's all a gift from the divine. It's all a gift from God. Some people say the universe, and I take that to mean something at least very similar to what we say when we talk about the creator. So it's all a gift. But if you head to brotherali.com and then go to the section called Join, there are ways to support and engage there that are absolutely essential to what we do. And so for those of you that are already doing that, we appreciate you beyond words. There's a tier and a level there where people are actually part of a Slack channel. And we're communicating in there on a regular basis. People sharing their lives. We got people from different walks of life. I'm not going to reveal, the stuff that they share, but there are people in there who might not know each other, might not know each other intimately, and are growing this bond between them that I'm very, very grateful for. So head to brotherali.com. You can get all of our tour dates there, all the information about the podcast. You can see merch offerings. But if you go to that section called Join, you'll be able to join the caravan, and we're very grateful that you do. I first became aware of you when you showed up on the Roots record, and I've seen, so many times that you've been standing next to someone who's amazing. You know what I mean? It's been a lot of time on the road with Common, and seeing you with all these incredible people. But it's like none of these people rhyme better than you. None of these people sing better than you. None of these people have the understanding of the entire scope of music the way that you do. You see like you with the loop pedal, like create an entire track from scratch. That's and then freestyle and sing on it. And you know what I'm saying? Like literally there's nothing that a musician or a cultural practitioner in hip hop or really in any of these legacies of American music, which is all Black music, there's none of it that you're not excelling in, you know what I mean? And so many, myself and so many of the people that I chill with, I'm great friends with Pharoah Monch. And in my mind, like, enough respect to Eminem, but all the things that Eminem's fans say about him, I'm like, you mean Pharoah Monch. What you're actually talking about is Pharoah Monch. And if you ask Eminem, like he'll tell you at the Grammys, it's Pharoah Monch. You know what I mean? But for so many of us, like we don't want to like downplay what we've been able to accomplish. But at the same time, it's like, there's a deep struggle for so many artists, that like the gulf between what I'm offering versus the way that it's received, and even the ability for it to be heard. Like, I'm not even necessarily trying to be, in the spotlight and all in the video, but like, I just want what I'm offering the world and my community and the people to be received by the people who need it and want it, and so many of us struggle with like, what does that mean and what do I do about it? And you're somebody that I've seen in that situation just continue to give, continue to just give in so many ways. And I just wonder, like, what is it that you're understanding? How do you look at that? You know what I mean? And I'm really asking for myself, like, how do you keep continuing to inspire and to come up with new ways to offer what you're doing, and to, you're running your business at such a high level, to be truly independent, to not have a team, to not have investors, to not have all these things that these people that are called independent. Like, you're a truly independent artist. And once I started trying to do that myself, I'm like, yo, how the hell is she producing these videos at high level? Got a dope ass silky bomber jacket with your face on it. The merch is high level. The album is high level. You know what I'm saying? While doing workshops, and while featuring on the Toby and Wigway record, and while touring with D-Smoke, and while...
Really, I think it comes out of naivete. It has not been since I started, seeking mentorship and advice from, more well-known independent artists, that I realized that they don't do it this way. I didn't know that they weren't spending their own money. I didn't know that they weren't working, 24/7 to make, with their babies on their back. I didn't know. I thought this is how everyone did it. I didn't realize that they have like 30 people behind the scenes. Meanwhile, I'm employing my son. I got my son he over there packing up merchandise. He booking the flights. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know. And it's more like a survival thing. It's just been a survival thing. And it's also, the enemy don't sleep. The enemy don't give up. The enemy don't get tired. They don't feel like, oh man, maybe I'm gonna take maybe it's not working out for me. The enemy don't never say that.
Maybe I'm gonna stop colonizing, dehumanizing, stealing culture, and then blaming it on the people that I...
Okay, they show up every time. You know what I mean? And are stealing the minds and the hearts and the lives of our children. And it's also because I keep my feet on the ground. I need to do workshops. When I go into prisons and the methadone clinics, and I go into juvenile detention centers, that it fills me up. It fills me up. I'm like, all right, bet. I was on a Zoom the other day with this one of the radio stations. They have like a educational component. And so this little girl was 12 years old, and she told me, I want you to know I'm proud of you. Don't stop. Keep pushing. I want to be just like you. She was like, I'm so proud of everything you've been able to do, right? Like, it literally had me tearing up. But what I realized is that these young girls, especially, I'm going to speak, about the younger, they need options. They need options. They need to know what's possible. They need a blueprint that works. And what I'm trying to create is more than just my own, what I'm doing as music. What I'm creating, I needed to live beyond me. I needed to be a business blueprint that's holistic, that works for artists, that I could plug any artist into, and it will work for them. They'll be able to build residual incomes, they'll be able to take care of their families, build new communities, build infrastructure, and have a platform that is not built around murder, drugs, promiscuity. You know what I'm saying? Forced sex work. Because we don't look at what artists as sex workers, but for women, they don't hardly let you not be a sex worker.
Damn it.
And so, and I'm not knocking people if that's what they want to do. That's your lane. You feel like that's woman empowerment. That's your business, boo. But what I'm saying is that the playing field is not even, and there are not options. You should not have to choose between, exploitation and poverty. That's not an option then. No one's giving you don't have options then. And that's what I want to see created. And it's not a lot of people that I can ask for advice that built themselves. You know what I'm saying? And did it with a baby on their back. You know what I mean? And I'm going to tell you, I had a lot of setbacks, and not just from the music industry. I spent years in custody court where I couldn't work. I couldn't tour. If I toured, they would have taken my baby from me, So it's times I'm living under the radar. I can't even let people really know what I'm doing. I can't move like I need to move. I had to just sit and wait until some of that stuff, the legal stuff, was settled down until I could even get back to work. And those was like really, really, really traumatic times. But what I knew was that I gotta outlast them. You know what I mean? I asked God for resilience, and I asked God to strengthen me, just help me outlast them. If I can't beat them, I'm gonna have to outlast them. I'm gonna have to outwork them. I'm gonna have to still be here looking cute when y'all are done. All right?
Damn it.
You know what I'm saying? Because I know how they are. I know how they work. Mm-hmm. I know, you know, I have been privy to conversations of people who truly want my downfall. And I just say, you don't even know me to have no beef with me. You got beef with God. You know what I'm saying? You got beef with God. You don't want God's work done, but it ain't up to you. You know what I'm saying? And so I keep praying for the renewal of my mind, body, and spirit. That's what it is, because it gets tiring. It gets tiring. Yeah, but when you ask the Lord to constantly renew me and restore me, then that's what happens. When you constantly ask for it, that's what constantly happens. Sometimes I just sit with my ziggabees and be like, God, renew me, restore me, restore me, right? When you say, when you remember, and I can't remember in Arabic, Rami always say it to me, but when you remember God, God remembers you. And it's not that God ever forgot you, but it is the remembering, right? To remember is to put something back together that was broken, that was pulled apart. So I asked God, remember me.
Yes, that's
but every time they tried to pull me apart into pieces, God, bring my pieces back together.
That's right.
And remember me so I can remember you and make them remember you in their face, in your face. You know what I mean? and that's how I charge myself up. I go and talk to these kids. I talk to these women at the prisons. Most of these women's in prison because something related to sexual abuse in some kind of way. You know what I mean? The methadone clinics, I'm dealing with people who can't deal with what life is throwing at them. Right. They need a way, they got to check out, you know? And so we're
don't have the tools, don't have the resources. Yeah.
And so that's what I'm trying to give. I'm trying to give them tools. They're not songwriters, but we doing songwriting workshops. We talking through, therapeutic, cognitive behavioral therapy techniques. We're going through this stuff together. And I know that it's important because if I can keep building more of God's soldiers, right? Because the work is inside. I came from revolutionaries, right? But what I realize is that you can't fix nobody outside. You can't fix the world outside if you can't fix what's inside.
Yes, ma'am.
So the work really has to happen in here. You know what I mean? I go down my list of everybody I got to forgive. Every person that slighted me, that wouldn't let my record come out, that intentionally takes me off of tours, that do all types of stuff. I ask Allah, forgive them. I'm gonna forgive them and make my enemy my footstool. You know what I mean? It's a reason we pray like that we do unceasingly submit and lay our faces on the ground and we submit to a power that's higher than us, that make us bigger than life. And then who want to come test us? Come on. Because all it is the joy. That's what's the sustaining force, right? They don't win until they take your joy.
Right.
When they take your joy, then that's it. Then why else we doing it? We don't have enough left to give if we can't give from a place of joy and a place of love. So that's the thing I protect and I ask the Lord to preserve is my love and my joy, and that my love, because it's my love for the people. You know what I'm saying? It's my love for these children. I love to see my own son. When I see my son being able to benefit from the struggle that I didn't give up on, you know what I mean? My son has options that I ain't have as a kid, that my father didn't have as a kid. My father should have been a scientist, but he was born during a time where he had to integrate a school and end up going to prison in middle school. Yeah. And my father's been in and out of the prison system since then. You understand what I'm saying? My son is a scientist. Some of the ways what my son is going to take science, he's coding and he's inventing all this different stuff. My father should have had that opportunity, but he couldn't, And so I've been given a different world. I'm going to give him a different world. And so I stay steadfast because I wouldn't even be able to give him these things if I wasn't steadfast. Yes. Now I can connect with people.
Go ahead.
You know what I mean? I can ask for favor. Hey, take my son on this internship. His life is going to be easy because I didn't give up.
Come on.
And his children's lives are going to be easy because I didn't give up.
Right.
And a million other people that I don't know, they're going to have a blueprint. They're going to say, oh, okay, I can do it because she did it. And it wasn't, I didn't have no daddy funding nothing for me. You know what I'm saying? My father was in prison when I graduated high school. My grandmother just died. My mother, was checked out. All I've ever known was that. So, and now at this point in my life, now it's really about structure, infrastructure, creating systems that work and that work without me, so that they can also work for someone else. And we repeat this cycle again and again and again. And it's a cycle that, again, I want to repeat is holistic so that it works for artists. Yeah. It doesn't work if the artists are crushed by the system.
Man.
If the artist can't arrive alive
Right.
It doesn't work then.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, it just seems repeatedly, I mean, over and over and over again, even if you're working with people that have the best of intentions. I saw the documentary with Bill Withers. I don't know if he said it in the Still Bill documentary, but in one of the documentaries or interviews, he said, you know, what happens over and over and over again, the manager's children go to Yale, the artist kids go to jail. You know, because it's just the way that this thing is constructed. And so to constantly have to, you know, like you said, like your father integrating a school whilst trying to learn and having this, you know, genius mind and being able to have such a grasp of science. But like, you're trying to reshape the entire industry while making dope music. It's not just enough to be the best rapper in the room, to be the best singer in the room, to be a producer. You learned how to master or like mix and engineer your own records.
Yeah. I went to engineering school during the pandemic.
Just
because it's not enough. It's not enough for me. Honestly, if it was just about making dope records, then I probably would have quit already. You know, that's what drives me, is knowing that I could create a system that works for somebody else, that it won't be as hard as it was for me for somebody else. You know, that I could make this thing easier. And it, you know, I hate not getting answers. I hate asking people for advice and they don't never have no answers for me. You know, they say, well, this is standard. This is just how it goes. I can't accept that.
Right.
This is who made it standard? Who decided it was a standard? That means we can create a new standard then, right?
Yeah.
And that's what gets me up in the morning, knowing that I can change everything for somebody, for somebody's. It wouldn't be enough for me. And I realized that like once I started getting the things I was asking for, I make a list on my wall. Say, I want to do this award show and do this, and I want to do that and get this amount of fans. And once I started meeting those markers, and it didn't feel like anything to me, it wasn't as rewarding as I thought it was going to be. And I realized like, oh, this is a way to be depressed and unfulfilled really fast, because that's not what does it for me. And I have to be engaged in those things that do it for me. I went with the State Department to Central America some years ago. And this was right at around the time I was trying to decide if I was going to stop. I didn't want to sing background anymore.
Right.
You know, it was a means to an end. It was just a way to take care of my son. But I didn't want to sing background because I was done singing anyone else's words. I don't want to sing your thoughts. You know, I want to say the things that God is putting in my heart to say. And I want to only be engaged with those frequencies, those sounds, those lyrics that are uplifting to me and that are things that I think that I want to bring into the world. And I just don't want to do anything else but that. I don't care what the gig is. I ain't doing it. So I taken this gig with the State Department to take my band down to Central America. We were going into areas where the drug cartel had dumped all these women's bodies. And it was massive femicides. And we were talking to groups of children about what is the value of a woman? Why can she be collateral damage ever? Why is that an option? And, you know, they had told me to not have my expectations too high. They said, you know, there's a language barrier. We don't really expect you to really, you know, reach them. Exposure's fine. You know, just let them have a good time. And I was like, all right, we'll see. And the main thing is that I had to humble myself, because you're coming into another country to talk to them about the state of affairs, how they view women, and the whole time you come from a country that don't like women. Right. So I said, you know, I'm not going to talk to you all about how y'all should view things and treat women better. And, you know, they wanted me to talk about machismo and this and the third. I said, I'm just going to talk to you about the women in my family. You know what I mean? You know, and it just started there, just me storytelling and creating loops while I was telling these stories. And before it was over, you know, a lot of them did speak English. They were sharing. I did do a couple songs in Spanish, and, you know, we were crying and hugging and having service together. It was a really transformational. And that's when I know, I said, this is the way I was expecting to feel at all these red carpets. This is how I want to feel. This moment right here feels the most rewarding. And this is what I know I want to do. Like, I'm a humanitarian. that's the work. That's what does it for me. That's how I keep pushing forward when I know that it's helping somebody else. And again, the healing frequencies, they're healing to me. They allow me to renew and restore myself. I'm very intentional now about what I'm singing because I know what it does to the inside of my body. So it's a sound bath for me every time. So it's not work.
Sound bath.
It's a sound bath for me every time. It didn't used to be like that. You know, before I used to kind of feel like, man, I'm sure I'm prostituting my gift because I'm doing things I don't want to do. You know, I'm engaged in frequencies that are low vibrational. I don't want to do that anymore. You know, and so when I make that shift, like I'm never singing low vibrational songs. I don't want to do it. It just changed things for me. And it's not to say, you know, sometimes we're going to throw in the Wu-Tang Clan and we're going to do a remix and we're going to go hard. But
and
for me, it's still high
vibrational. You know?
Yeah, but I say for me, it's still high vibrational because it reminds me of the happiest times in my life when I was sitting on the stoop with my brothers battling. Those are some of the happiest times in my life. And because we know the context,
we know why they're saying what they're saying. We know the things that aren't being said. We know that like they're saying these things and they're talking about these things because of the fact that they're surviving other things that aren't necessarily in the focus of the lens right now.
Right. And it changes the idea of like, you know, when you hear people talk about healing frequencies in this new age context, even though it's not new age, it's ancient, it excludes Black music. And I don't know any high vibrational music than the gospel music. I remember my grandmother singing the Dr. Watts and the, you know, when she would get to moaning in the kitchen while she was cooking, just rearrange all your insides, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I remember when you made the change from, you know, singing with others to only singing for yourself. And it's just another one of the, I mean, so many of the things that you've done have been really instructive and inspirational for me.
I'm so grateful for that. Brother Ali, when you told me that, I was like, what? Because for me, you know, I'm looking at you like, you really like the leader out here, been doing this independent thing a long time and just what y'all was able to do with the festival and just, and been able to bring other artists on. To me, that's the real true sign of success when you're able to help other people be successful too. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's like the difference between being self-employed and being a boss. You know what I mean? And so I was just really like, I was so humbled, really humbled, you know, when you know, because I was part of that, and still, you know, that's a family and a network that I'm part of them and they're part of me. There's no me without them. There's no them without me. But at some point, you know, I realized that for as amazing as this thing is, it's not mine, and I didn't necessarily build it. And there were certain things that I wanted to do and certain, you know, frequencies that I wanted to work within. And there were certain things that I wanted my thing to look and feel a certain way to me, you know. And I realized, like, I can't expect these people to rebuild everything. Like, they already, you know, gave me so much and they already built something so beautiful. I can't say like, oh, thank you for this gift. Now, can you make it specific to it's like, I'm going to have to build this thing the way that I see it, you know? And in doing that, you are the person. Like, you're not one of a group of people. You're the one that I looked at. And then in starting to try to do it, like I said, just the fact that and I know that it's not, you know, I'm seeing all these things hitting on different levels at different times. Like I said, you know, we just saw the culmination of all of these years of labor and of work. But to see the videos be so dope, because I know that that's not easy. I mean, brother, for the merch to be so dope. So much work. Let me tell you, like the day after we finished shooting the third video,
which one?
I'm gonna tell you, like, I really North Star. Okay. So first of all, I was up 24 hours, like doing everything from just making sure the crew had blankets to making sure the horses were on site to making sure that they didn't poop all over my mom's friend's property. Making sure her property was clean, making sure we returned the generators, making sure my son was not having a meltdown because I was stressed and he was stressed, and, you know, trying to find all the regalia pieces and, you know, just managing everybody and everything. I was like, once we finished like cleaning up the whole property, I literally had to leave from that shoot with no sleep and go shoot Black Girls Rock. When I got down there, I was like, I called Dummy, was like, I think I'm ready to quit now. He was like, what? I was like, yeah, I think I'm done. I think I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this, you know? And and my team, I really appreciate like my glam squad and everything like that, because they will, when they get me together, they will pray over me. They know it's only certain music I can listen to while I'm getting together. I need to just really bring my energy in, and they pray over me while they doing my hair and makeup. And the Black Girls Rock Show was like kind of tough for me because I was like really, really, really tired. And I was just praying like, God, I need a team. Like I really, really, I don't want to do this amount of work, and I'm not really a personality type, but I am very anal about things being done in excellence. I really can't see them any other way. And
it's
not
very
just
clear.
Yeah, it's I mean, like you ask anybody on my team, like people have quit because they can't take my criticism before.
I already know. Yeah,
and,
I already know.
And it's like, I'm going to say it with love, but I want you to be great. I want you to want to be great. And if you don't want to be great, we can still be friends, but we can't work together because we don't want the same things.
Yes, ma'am. And
so,
why are we going to offer something to people that's less than our best? Like if we're not capable of doing better than this, and that's one thing, but why are we going to ask these people for their time, their money, their attention, their energy, their concern, and all of this stuff, and we're not giving everything that we have to offer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's true. It's like, and I just wanted everybody, I was like, I need everybody on board to like, I need you to push yourself past whatever you think is your best. I need you to push yourself a little bit past that. You know what I mean? And if we can all show up like that for each other, this is going to be great. If we can't, I'm going to end up having to overcompensate because it's going to be great. Trust me, it's going to be great in the end, but I just might not work with you again. You know what I mean? Because I will have had to do so much work, And so anyways, I just was telling, I was like, dummy, I'm tired. I don't want to do all of this, And it's funny, like right after that happened, we ended up winning this award for Best Music Video for Urban World. And that was my first time winning a music video award, right? And so I was like, oh, and just seeing how it showed. I mean, Mecca Filmworks is an incredible, just visionaries. I love their storytelling, just their vision, just the way they texturize the color. They're really, really, really super brilliant. So just seeing the way the whole piece came out, I was really adamant about showing the Afro-Indigenous connection. Having my son have on grass dancer regalia with his J's on. That was so dope. Yeah, that was so dope. Bringing D Smoke out there, and I was really adamant about having these horses. I'm like, yo, we got to have these horses, and just show, and the quilts, these quilts were made exactly the way they were done in 1865. You know what I mean? So little details like that. I was very much a stickler. Like, hey, we're not doing this video without these quilts. And these quilts were used as road maps. It was the original GPS, you know what I mean, in the United States, where you would get to a safe house, and based on the quilt that was hanging, you knew where you were, how far away from freedom you were. You know what I mean? It's like, it just was so many levels of brilliance that I really wanted to display. Like look at what we came from. Look at what we did to survive. The ingenuity, and really kind of, these are conversations I have with my son all the time, like about, we live in a really crazy world, babe. And they will really try to confuse you about who you are, what your purpose is, why you're here, why does it matter? And you really have to rely on your internal guidance system. Like imagine running from Georgia to Canada and you don't have no GPS and it's dogs chasing you, and whatever the case may be. Is like, think about the faith and the strength, the internal fortitude that you have to even think that you can make it, and then to make it, Yeah. That's what we have to employ inside of ourselves when you start to feel like, man, I don't know if I belong. Man, I don't know if if I can succeed. When you start feeling like that, it gotta mean everything to you. Your survival gotta mean everything. So that's really what I wanted that video to embody. And the little girls that was dancing, man, I've known them since they was infants. I used to teach them at Gymboree when my son was 2 years old, and they grew up to be these incredible ballet dancers. And so they danced in the piece. And it just was so, when I saw the edits come back, I was like, all right, I'm not gonna quit. I slept for 3 days, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah. And you can feel it, when something is authentic, there's a texture that it really just reverberates, that you can feel like this is real. Like this is not a set. These are not props. These are not actors. Like this is the real thing.
Yeah, and I had the Quran and the gun. Dude. I had to, I found a gun from that time period. The pattern of the clothes was from 1865, Like we was so intent. And the stylist, she's from this vintage shop called Keeper's Vintage in Baltimore. And I was just happy to be able to work with a lot of Black women, and she was very adamant. I said, look, I need this to be authentic. We're just like, she found everything that we need to found the right even the fabric, because we were looking at some denim fabric, but denim wasn't created until the late 1890s. So he was like, no, we can't use denim. We're literally going to use the fabric that was created in this time period, So that's what's fun to me. If I was not an artist, I'd totally be an anthropologist,
I mean, it's crazy. Like, you have proven that you can really do anything. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you could direct, like, you should direct films. You know what I mean? And then when you said, like, when we were starting, you said, like, I got all these tabs open for writing a book. I mean, you should, like, absolutely do it. I am
writing a book. I'm super excited about it. It started off being like an instruction manual. A lot of artists ask me questions about everything from distribution to split sheets and manager contracts. I have a lot of young artists who they'll just call me, ask me to read over their contracts with them and just help them understand what they're looking at. And I love to do it, because when I was first getting started, I think no one understood anything. So you had like people who loved you, right? Negotiating things for you, but they didn't know what they was looking at either. So we all just screwed.
We're all just watching the 5 heartbeats, trying to figure out how to.
Yeah, nobody.
What about my points? Well, what's a point? I don't know. I know they said you got to ask about your points.
And nobody knew, and and like my mom was in the music industry. She was Tommy Mottola's first artist. She toured with Sammy Davis Jr. That. Yeah, he signed a group called
Sammy, but
he signed a group called Dr. Buzz's Original Savannah Band.
Okay.
My mother was in that group, and that was how he got into the industry, through that group. And she ended up leaving the group and converting to Islam and never went back to finish the records and everything. But but even the things that, my mom taught me a lot about the industry at that time, but it had changed, since then. And during her time, she wasn't able to just record her own records. I'm sure she didn't even have the opportunity to read the contract. Yeah. So it was a lot. Like, my mother taught me a lot. Then I was able to go into the world and bring it back and teach her as well. Her first time recording her own solo stuff, we did it together in the studio. Because by then I'd learned how to engineer and everything.
What's it like? So when I see you working with Toby and Wigwe and Fat and with their, with the family, and it's got this like, it's very connected to culture. You know what I mean? Because he's he's still, directly connected to a living culture that he can learn the tradition and show up with the whole family and the children and, everything. It really is a family vibe.
Yeah.
For you, what does it mean for you to be in that environment and to see it work?
Yeah,
like to, know what I mean? To actually see somebody like, and to remain as independent as they have, and to be able to really chart their own course and demand that things be done the way that they see them. Like, what does that mean for you to see that?
It's beautiful. It really, really is. It's the show I did a couple of shows with them, but the last one I did in Houston, just seeing how, because, my mind, I'm very, very business oriented. So even when I'm trying to just be an artist and relax, I'm making budgets in my mind. I'm calculating who's doing what, how they doing their job. You know what I mean? And just seeing how his team works, they work really, really well. Like, everybody, brings something unique to the table, and they're committed. I love, and Nell always says, like, they have to match his level of commitment. He demands that of them. It was incredible seeing that vision come to life. I mean, it was more organized than most A-list artists that I've worked with. It was, and even like with the clothing, what's interesting is when I spent time in Nigeria, every family has a fabric and a pattern. And that family, they all wear the same clothes when they have events and things like that. And it's very reminiscent, if not exactly adopted from that, but it's very reminiscent of what I saw in Nigeria, that the family has a cloth that they wear, so it kind of makes sense that he would have
everything's mint.
Yeah. Yeah. And just, having his mom there and everything, it was just beautiful. It worked. It was good to see something a well-oiled machine. It really works. His system works. You know what I mean? It really, really works. It's excellent. From the lighting to like when you walk into the venue, he painted the floors of the venue mint. Okay, you hear what I'm saying? Next level. It's not just the stage, the venue. He painted mint. I mean, they paint on like large sheets of paper, so it's not, they can tear it off at the end of the night. But you walk the floor. I mean, it's a level of sovereignty. That's what I saw. I was like, this is a level of sovereignty.
Hold on. So
it's symbolic.
You're not talking about like in their studio where they did like their online show. You're talking about like at the Fillmore
venue. Yes. Yeah, the stage is painted mint. The dressing rooms is mint. It's a level.
I thought that was all lights. Like I've never been to a show, so I thought it was lights.
No, sir. When you get their sound check, somebody's painting, and they waiting for it to dry. They paint the bicycles. They paint. It's spray painted. The microphones, everything. It's a different level of commitment. I mean, it reminded me of Genghis Khan. You know what I mean? Like Genghis Khan was like that. He has certain colors, y'all. You know what I mean? It's a way we move, bruh.
Right.
And honestly, as independent artists, I feel like most of the time we are just trying so hard just to get the basics together. You got
just
$2
to get there.
To
can I just get some? Can somebody turn the light on? I'm on stage. Can we have the light turned on, please?
Right. Can the engineer? Can I wait? But can I have more than one mic?
Do you have a bathroom where somebody's not taking a selfie with me, please?
Like normally that's how it is, I'm trying to just like, look, it's just enough that I got here. I found somebody to babysit or make my babies on the side with headphones on and ain't nobody even to watch them. So I got to put them right there like Aretha Franklin should do her purse. I put my baby right there on the side of the stage. And we just try and get through the night. I'm sitting there directing the band. I'm playing everybody's daggone role. I'm directing the sound engineer. I'm trying to make sure I get my money at the end of the night. That's normally how it is. We hustling. We like...
Right.
You barely holding all these different things together. You're just happy that you get home at the end of the night, can pay them bills, keep the lights on. And to see an independent artist not have to do that, I mean, it was like, for me, I just felt like it's possible. Oh my God, it's possible.
And to do it on his terms and to do it in that family, culture-centric, holistic way.
It's what we've all wanted. It really, I told him, I was like, yo, you did it. I don't know how you did it, but you did it, bruh. And I've been doing this a long time, and I ain't never seen it done like this. And even with labels, and I don't know how y'all have done it, but you did this on another level, and it's really admirable. It's incredible. You know what I mean? It's definitely like it changed for me. Like the shows that I'm planning this year, it really changed what I want to do for my shows in terms of the level of intentionality. You know what I'm saying? Like normally you don't have the luxury of being intentional because like you just trying to survive. You know what I mean? But it really made me feel like the intentionality is a necessity. It's not a luxury. And so, you know what I mean? Just thinking about it differently and really calling in the help, people who really believe in it. And so that's what I've been doing. Really, like if I put out a call, who would respond? And, would they be able to do what needs to be done to really have this be on a level that it needs to be on, as opposed to like, you kind of get used to after a while of just shit not being the way you want it to be. And you just holding it together with gum and shoestring,
Right.
And that's, it's like we can never really experience ourselves in the fullness of who we'd be if we didn't have to carry everybody's load. So just seeing it and knowing that it's possible was very inspiring to me,
Vicegerent, Vicegerent, is a word known to English-speaking Muslims because they're of a verse in the Quran where the Creator says, I'm going to create a vicegerent on earth. And so there are certain words that are translated from Arabic that are really well known to Muslims that speak English, but maybe not well known outside. So I've had a bunch of people hit me up like, vice regent, vice management, how do I get, so vicegerent, Vicegerent. Specifically, we're talking about vicegerent makers and merchants of fine men's tailored clothing. This idea that's in the Quran that a human being is a vicegerent on earth means that the human being has a certain royal and regal responsibility to be a leader and a director in creation. first and foremost in ourselves, that the highest version of ourselves, our higher self, our consciousness, our morality, our virtues, our sense of right and wrong, a sense of why, our sense of intention should be the leader and the sovereign in our community of self. That the best version of us is going to be in community with everything else, with our ego and with our pettiness and all this, our laziness, but that our virtues should be in the leadership seat. That's what the term vicegerent means. And so it applies to clothing because of the fact that when we're stepping into a role like this, we need a uniform. We need to adorn ourselves and to create a sense and a feel and a vibe and an energy in our presentation and in the way that we prepare ourselves and ready ourselves and present ourselves that sends a message both internally to us, but then also to others, that we're here to seek the best. We're here to climb. We're not here to slide down. We're here to elevate. We're here to improve. We're here to refine, And when human beings do that in public, it's a type of charity. It's a type of generosity of spirit, because all of us are fighting the inclination to be lazy and to be and to cut loose and to be our worst selves. It's much more easy to be our worst selves than it is to be our best selves. That requires sacrifice. It requires a lot of work for all of us. And so when we arrive in public space, speaking and dressing and carrying ourselves in a way that encourages elevation, we're actually giving motivation and support to the other people that are on that vibe and on that frequency. Whereas when we show up speaking, presenting ourselves, in ways that affirm ease and maybe even laziness and all that kind of stuff, it reinforces the idea that, man, forget it, just whatever. You know what I mean? Just go ahead and slide into what's comfortable and let's all just get used to whatever that is. But we don't want that from other people. We don't want other people to be lazy with us. You go to a restaurant, you want excellence. You be around other people, you want them to have good manners and to be thoughtful of and to be considerate, and we want to be like that with ourselves. Whatever we do, we want to be excellent at what we do. We want that feeling of knowing that I'm contributing something dope. And that requires work, and it requires being a vicegerent. So check out my man, Osman the Tailor, and his team. Clothing that's made specifically for each individual person, clothing that's made to fit your body instead of, going and trying to buy at a department store or something and this doesn't fit right, there must be something wrong with my body. Well, we could all work on our bodies more, but the reality is that you are who you are. Your body is your body, and the clothes should fit you and should accentuate what's beautiful about you and what's noble about you. And then also this stuff is going to be made by people not in sweatshops. It's going to be made in ways that are sustainable. It's going to be quality stuff that you don't have to replace every 6 months or every few wears. You know what I'm saying? So head to Vicegerent Official, and book an appointment. Book a tailoring session with my man Osman the Tailor. He's in Chicago. Several people that watch and listen to this podcast have traveled to Chicago to sit with him, and I can't wait to see the pieces that come out. But I'm telling you that it's an investment that will absolutely reap rewards. There are people that are saying now you're lately we've been seeing you, man. How you doing this? You got a Nike jacket on. Look. This is stuff that I got before I knew my man Osman the Tailor. But I will say that I have 3 jackets like this, because more than one person actually called me out for this. I have 3 jackets like this. I have this black one, I have a burgundy one, and I have a turquoise one. And I've had these things for coming up on 15 years. And there are pictures of me from 2010 wearing these jackets on stage. Because I have to say, like, yes, I bought them from a company that, deals in sweatshops and all kind of stuff like that. Again, this is before I knew my man Usman the tailor. But I bought these things and I've been wearing them and I haven't had to replace them. You know what I'm saying? So there's something about making an investment in something that we can wear and live in for a long period of time. You know what I'm saying? And so being on stage, I don't necessarily have all of the performance and travel gear from my man Usman. Mostly I was focusing on the stuff that I wear when I'm speaking and presenting and things like that. So, suits and vests and things like that. So I got to get with my man Usman, maybe when I get to Chicago on this tour, and see if we can make me stuff to travel in, to perform in, and what have you. But head to Vicegerent Official, check them out, go and get a fitting, have something made for you. You will not regret it. Unity Productions is a production company, a collective of artists and creatives that work on amazing cultural production, artistic production. Unity Productions Foundation is the arm of their work that deals with giving back and that deals with using art and culture and creativity and particularly storytelling to contribute to to humanity and to the dignity of human beings. And that's why it speaks to me. Their work speaks to me, so directly, because that's what I intend to do, along with just being a dope rapper and hopefully putting out great music and shows and podcasts and things like that. But so much of our intention as creatives, if we really get serious about what is it that we're offering the world, is the opportunity to connect based on our shared humanity. So UPF, Unity Productions Foundation, has a program that they do called Unfold Your Own Myth, where they bring together storytellers, songwriters, poets, people who have really plunged the depths of our own experiences and reality to share our story and document our stories, not only for ourselves, but for others. And this is an online seminar. I'm one of the presenters in this seminar that really encourages and teaches youth from around the world to tell their stories, to document their stories, both because it's a reminder of how important we are, how important every human being is, but then also the fact that your story is needed in the world. There are others that need your reflection, that need your wisdom, and that need to even be inspired by what you're imagining, your creative thought and your creative writing. So head to upf.tv/unfold, and you can bring this amazing workshop to your group, whether you work with youth, whether you are a person that holds community space, if you're an organizer, if you're a manager of people, even if you're in a corporate environment. This stuff is really powerful, and it really encourages a type of communication between people that can be really, really beneficial and necessary and healing. So head to upf.tv/unfold and check out Unfold Your Own Myth.
I've been meeting with Black women business owners, and because I've been looking for mentors for a while, right? And it was hard to find. I found some mentors, but in terms of who could really, really identify with what my story and struggle and life has been like I don't know any, right? And but I recently joined this collective of Black women business owners who have really been mentoring me. They're not artists. They own corporations. Like one of them owns like a bunch of golf courses.
Dope.
I know, right? But
I love stuff like that, because you wonder, like, there's dudes out there smoking cigars, like the blacks and the Black Lives Matter. It's just like a Black woman owns this golf course. Yeah. Yeah,
but they've been teaching me just how to really organize my business on another level. I almost got chills about it. I'm really excited about moving to the next level of, because it was like being in a room with them was the first time, not the first time, but I had this feeling of, when people were asking, you had to do your business pitch. I never did a business pitch before, because I guess as an artist, you're the product, right? And but as I'm branching out and I am expanding my brand to be a wellness brand, because I'm realizing that's what I care about the most. I care about our wellness. Music is just an avenue to wellness, because if I couldn't help us be well through music, I would not do music. So for me, music is about wellness. And so my brand is branching out. And I went to a what's his name? Tony Robbins conference. And it's funny because there was this one exercise. Yeah. It's this one exercise. It was actually on a date. It's funny. This guy
took you on a date to a Tony Robbins thing?
Yes.
Like,
you see the kind of guys out
she
there.
said, yes. Where do I take Maimouna Youssef on a date? It's got to be deep. It's got to be something. I can't take her to Spider-Man. It's got to be something else.
But it was really interesting because there was this one part in particular that stands out in my mind.
Dude.
Where he says, they said, in order to change your habits, right, you have to get your nervous system to agree with you. Mm-hmm. And so you start doing this mantra, whatever the thing is that you want to change, you write it in a positive affirmation like it's happening right now. And then you got to get the nerves in your body to agree with you. Well, you have the most nerves in your butt. So you have to shake your butt while you do this affirmation. And so then they turn on this techno music like, go, go, go. I am sunshine, I am great. I am rich. Whatever the thing is, right? But that's all, first of all, I'm
this
too
sounds
cool.
Like none of my business, dude.
Listen, I'm too cool for this. So I was just like, I ain't about to
I'm not shaking my butt.
Y'all know who I am? First, I was like, but it's not about shaking the butt. It's about this music is trash, right? But, it wasn't for Black demographic or whatever. So everyone, it was like the rave music, right? But I was just thinking about how in Black music, rap music, contemporary music, mm-hmm. we'll say stuff like these hoes ain't loyal, and then shake and activate all of our nervous system in agreement with this thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
We'll talk about overdosing on pills. We'll talk about murdering each other, about, distrusting each other. And then we'll activate all the nerves in our body. And so when you look back at like African cultures, how the women would always shake their butts in ceremony. Mm-hmm. And then it was, perverted by, colonial culture. But really, they're activating their nervous system in agreement with what this ritual is and what they're praying for. So I was just like, having this whole epiphany, like, whoa, man. Whoa, right? So as I'm restructuring my business, right? Mm. And taking this thing to a whole nother level and really adding the anthropological portion of my brain to it and the scientific portion of my brain to it. And these women are helping me structure my business like a regular business, not like an artist, but like a brand. Like a for real business. Because most artists don't know how to do business. Let's just keep it real.
I don't, yeah.
It's like, it's something you got to learn. It's not normal for us. We know how to do art, right? And so as I'm structuring this, what's most exciting about, I'm just learning so much from them, things I would have never even considered before. And as I'm sitting in the room with them while they're all doing their business pitch, I'm kind of feeling a little insecure because I don't know what to tell y'all. And they're rattling off acronyms I don't understand and different certifications that's helping them get funding. And it's just changing my mind about how I'm looking at this and how I can create this infrastructure that, again, works for anyone, that can work for anyone. It's just blowing my mind. And I'm really excited about helping other artists to look at themselves like business entities and not just like the product. We're akin to a vacuum cleaner or, like we just the product to be bought and sold and to the highest bidder. And I guess that works. Okay, cool. We'll rock with that. Like I remember this when I was interviewing managers, a manager said, now if we work together, I just want to tell you, it's going to be a lot of hard work. You got to get used to having, hard work, and you're probably not going to make money for a long time. And then I said, back up. First of all, I'm not afraid of hard work because you see what I built already. But the idea that I'm not going to make money for a long time when I'm already making money now sounds like you need me more than I need you. So that's not going to work, right. And just hearing them tell me how the business structure should work. And I know it won't work that way. And I know that they can't see outside of the sharecropping model that the business, the industry was fashioned upon. And the way that we look at business and the way the deals we take and the way we allow ourselves to be treated, no one in any other business would allow that. It just doesn't make good business sense.
And it's such when you think about like a creative, we talk about being creatives, and these are like the great creatives that don't just create the music, but they also create the world for their art to live in. Like I think about, you're talking about Toby coming in and painting the venue and painting the floor and painting the whole situation. But like really, for me, that's always been the idea is like, I'm here because I want to be able to do things that feel like they're emanating from my soul and that I don't have to just follow in the footsteps of all of these people that have just, commodified the gift that God gives us and the abilities that we have. And, it's like, what are we doing this for? If we can't actually, create the world that we live in, then what are we doing this for? Yeah, and you think about like how many great artists have done exactly that. Yeah. I was with really major blessing right around the time that I made the shift that I made, and was seeing you. That's when the pandemic started, and when I started seeing the lives that you were doing and the Mumu You and all that stuff. Got the invitation from Chappelle to go to Yellow Springs, and just seeing what that was and how he built this venue in the middle of a field. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And everything is red, black, and green. And, all of these artists are there and all these people are there. And, and it really reminded me a lot of what we hear about and read about Fela Kuti, having this like big, compound, and he's got his family out performing. And it's like, a song might go for 4 hours. Like they're playing the jam and he'll go out and sing, you know what I mean? And then go inside and eat. Have sex.
Man, I wanted to go out there so bad.
You did. It
was because it was early in the pandemic, and I had my son. And I was kind of like, I would risk my own life, but I didn't want to risk my son's life too.
I feel you.
So I was just like, no, I think I'm gonna pass this time. I wish I could have though, because I watched the documentary and it just looked like so much fun.
That was one of the most affirming. I didn't realize how badly I needed to be affirmed. I didn't realize how badly I needed to be seen by, the people that I love the most in the culture, by Dave and Yassine and Kweli and those folks like that. For them to, and it's funny too because Donnell Rollins, and he's always kind of like, "What, son? You better kill it. You better kill it." And so. I didn't know, like Dave doesn't tell you when he's going to call you on. He just starts announcing you. And like, you better be in earshot and you better be able to run to the stage. And so the DJ just threw on, he just went on Spotify and found like, all right, what's his biggest song? Forrest Whitaker, started playing it. And I'm doing it and I'm just like, this isn't right. So I just turn around, I'm like, just play Nas beats, just play Nas and Wu-Tang beats. And I did the Off the Head. And so, Dave and all, they're always so, but Donnell is not just supportive for no reason. And he was like, man, but I could hear him yelling, you know what I mean? As I was rhyming, I told you, son, I told you. Son. And then I got done, he was like, I kept telling him the artist's about to come out. The artist's about to come out. Man, that was like one of the most,
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, and I mean, for Dave to create that type of environment, like we need each other, like artists really need each other. Other people can't understand what it means to have to simultaneously be a leader that's directing the energy of all of these people, and also receiving all their energy and to be giving so much. But the reason that we can do that is because I am extremely sensitive. Like I'm an extremely sensitive person. And to have to be that sensitive and also, be that resilient and be, right. the focus for all of those people. It's like, it's a miracle. Like to do this at any level at all is a miracle. And like, who says that this should be able to happen? You know what I mean? Like why should this work for anybody?
Right. Yeah. But I mean, that's why there needs to be more support for the artists.
Right.
For whatever state that we're in is like, and the idea of being sensitive, like it's a heightened awareness, right? If you imagine like a plant that is sensitive, like it's aware of whatever's happening, it's pulling information, taking information in, sending information out. Is it's just aware of its environment. It's a heightened awareness. Sensitivity isn't like a weakness like we've been taught to think it is. It's like it's like, no, I'm able to stand still and have all my tentacles pulling information from everywhere. And I'm processing all of this information at whatever time I'm processing it. And now I'm transmuting it, using alchemy to transform it. And now when I send it back out, it's, you wonder how I did it, It's like, it was a whole process, and it started with the heightened sensitivity,
And it's a communion with the unseen.
Mm-hmm.
It's a communion with the unseen. Like, it really is like, I'm honoring this process, but this is not happening if it's not for God and the angels and the ancestors and all the great predecessors and all the people that, we intend to be in their, on their program and part of their legacy and on their shoulders and,
Because the difference when it's not.
Right.
When humans do it of their own fruition.
If you know the difference, then you know the difference.
Yeah, okay.
There are plenty that don't know the difference.
Right,
and, and that's the thing too, is like, for all of these like great hidden treasures, there are people that will do a fake version of what we do and win a freaking Grammy doing it.
Well, and you gotta also understand, it's like, not you gotta understand, but
and just act like this. Just act like it. What do you mean? Like, what, what I mean? Hey, what about this person that you learned all this from? It's I don't know what you're talking about. Never heard of that.
But my mother will always say to me, like, she would say, like, Moo, in order for them to honor you, they would unveil their own fraudulence.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? They would unveil their own fraudulence if they were to honor you as the authentic article. You know what I mean? And not just me. I'm talking about what I represent.
Right.
It would shake loose the screws that hold the beast together.
Allah.
You know what I mean?
Shake loose the screws.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So she's just like, just be at ease, knowing, you know what I mean, you're doing what you're supposed to do. And it's
it's crazy how much even in the culture, like, folks would kind of laugh a little bit at Little Richard for having to say his entire life, not only having created so much of what the world knew as rock and roll or whatever, but then he created that. They stole it from him. He found a way to still become known and to still make it, but then also had to spend the rest of his life reminding everybody, I am the creator, I am the originator, I did it, they stole it from me, oh, Mick Jagger's my biggest fan. All of this stuff, like to be in that space, to have to carry all of that, but if he hadn't have said that, it wouldn't be known.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be known had he not told that story. And it's like, that's not a narcissistic story for him to tell. No. That's the will of God, that Allah gave him that. Allah gave him that particular thing and made him the one. So it's just like, this is displeasure with the divine decree that like, this is the place of God's revelation of this particular piece of the puzzle. That like nothing, only the creator is the entirety. And that we each are drops in the ocean. We're also oceans in a drop. But the ability to do that, it's like, yeah, I really appreciate your framing of it, that it's not that they have a problem with us, man. Yeah, I would love to not be angry a person. You know what I mean? I would love to not carry and so when you said that to me, that was years ago, that you were like, if you have some bitterness in your state, if you have some acidity in your state, and I wasn't ready to hear the next part yet. You know what I mean? Because I hadn't fully, I heard that when you said that, but then today when you said it, I heard the next part that's like, I hadn't fully believed in myself yet to let go of the safety net, you know what I mean? And to really take the full risk into like stepping into my own reality so that this thing could be exactly, tuned to my particular melody. You know what I mean?
Woo! It gave me chills just now. Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be so freeing. I'm so excited for you.
You know what's crazy? Since we're sharing.
Yeah, come on.
It's a trip. It's like, I didn't realize the expectations I brought to so many of these relationships. Like I wish, like what I find in a pattern with myself is like, why do I give everything to so many people and then I never even pay attention or keep track of what they're giving me? You know what I mean? And what they're giving back. Like one of the main things I've been sitting with is like, that I did have all of these subconscious expectations of the people that I've been in these relationships with. And for some of them, one of them actually told me recently, he was like, man, I wasn't signing up to be your father figure. You know what I mean? But that's what I made him. And he didn't ask to be that. But he was like, you know what? At some point I realized that. And because I never wanted it, I never held it with intention. You know what I mean? And so there was a lot of hurt, you know what I mean? And a lot of harm. But, you know, just really sitting with my own expectations that I didn't realize that I had, you know. Yeah, man.
We growing every day. So all we can do is get in this thing, make a mess, and
I got some more advice I want to ask you.
Okay.
So when you're helping with other artists and you're trying to help other artists and you're opening your door to them and opening your platform to them, how do you what do you do to stop? Like sometimes you do so much for other people and they grow a sense of entitlement around it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And they lose sight of the fact that like, hey, I built this and now I'm sharing this with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like sometimes there's this feeling that like, well, how come you're not doing more for me? Or like, why isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, is there a way that are there a certain way you communicate, certain boundaries you set? Are there, you know what I mean? If you could offer some insight on that. That's something I really struggle with.
It's a thing when you got a compassionate heart, you know, when you got a heart for people. Like I realize even when I'm teaching my classes, like I have to hire teachers because I can't spend that much time, and it's hard for me, you know. It's like the classes be going on and on and on, and I'm just giving. And I'm like, okay, guys, like this is way past the budget, the allowed time. Right. So I realized I have to hire teachers and just create a buffer, and raise the premium on what it takes to talk to me, right? But there are certain young people who, you know, I really feel I believe in and I want to give some advice to, but even for them, it's good to create buffers and it's good to create like tiers, almost like levels of achievement, right? So like things like, right, I might not need you to pay for this, but I need you to pay for it for you, right? So because you're going to value it more if you pay for it. It's not that I need the money or even that I want to charge you, but I know it's good for you to attach a dollar amount to it because you need to invest in it and you need to find it valuable enough. And I need to create structure around how I'm giving this to you more for you than even for me. And so when I think about it like that, it helps me also not feel like I'm being selfish, but more so it's just another teaching tool. With everybody in your life, you got to create a certain amount of buffers. It's just important because, you know, your energy this is not an infinite pool, you know? And so you got to secure your own mass. You got to pour into yourself and give from your overflow. You can't give from even half empty cup. You got to pour from your overflow. So if you're not in a place of overflow,
pour from your overflow.
I can't even take it on if I'm not at the point of being completely full. And so that means I got to spend time filling up all the time. Like I have a list of things to fill up. You know what I mean? Like I had to start thinking about it and being intentional. Because before I really realized like, hey, I'm empty. I had never thought about what it takes to fill up. You know, so then I was like, all right, what are those things? Like I know I like to hike a whole lot. I'm actually starting a hiking group. Hiking fills me up. You know, I like to sit by the ocean. Why can't you just
hike though? Why it gotta be?
No, because I like people. I want a whole hiking group. Okay. And I like sitting by the ocean. I like bike riding. Because
I'm starting an oceanography course. So I got my master's in oceanography, and now I'm leading.
But that fills me up. It's like I have to find what are those things. Like this is one.
The other day we got on the prayer line with the Iman folks, and you were leading the prayer. You were leading it. You know what I mean? And you were like, "Yeah, I'm on the beach right now. I'm on the ocean. Y'all gotta forgive me."
Light flex. But I had to go because I was taking care of my parents, like my mother and my father and my little brother, you know, Sequoia, he has Down syndrome. All went in the hospital back to back over like from October to January. Everybody took turns being in the hospital. And it was just really stressful. I'm taking care of several people with COVID. I can't even worry about if I'm going to get it or not because I got to take care of these people. And I just feel like I'm strong. I have a strong immune system. I just keep taking my elderberry and all my different herbs. And I got to take care of them, you know. And when it was over, when everybody was stable, I said, I'm leaving. I'm going to the ocean. Don't ask me for nothing. I'll call you when I'm filled back up.
Okay.
Okay. And so the same thing is true of people that you want to help. You just can only pour from your overflow. And I love young people, and I have definitely experienced, my dad always tell me this one quote: familiarity breeds contempt. I hate that it's true. But, I've had young people around me that I really want to mentor who want to be, artists. And, sometimes they come for you, like they want to take your spot. And it's funny to me because I'm like, hey, look, God already made a spot for you. Why would you have to take mine? You can't, for one.
Right.
That's such a, colonial mind state. Like, that's not communal. Like, I'm giving this to you and you over here trying to take it. How you going to take it when I'm giving it to you, And, but I just see, how they think. And I'll be like, oh, poor little tink tink, And I've had to let people go, like, hey, for your best benefit, you got to do this without me, because you're at a place where you can't see me for who I am and who I'm being in your life. You're getting into this weird competitive mode, and sometimes people want to see you right as like God, and they don't like when you show them your humanity. I'm not your God. You know what I'm saying? I pass gas and, do that stuff that everybody else do. You know what I'm saying? And so
scratch stuff and
So when I'm taking people in and letting you see we meeting eye to eye just as sisters and brothers, sometimes people take that as an opportunity to swell up on you. It would behoove you to be humble, but if you can't be humble, that's okay, babe. I'll see you around. You know what I'm saying? And I ain't gonna hold it against you because you just functioning. My father always say humans are mad machines, failed experiments. You know what I mean? So I'm just like, I'm not mad with you. When you able to be at a place of peace with yourself, because you ain't mad with me, you mad with yourself. And I've been at a point before where when I was not living the best version of myself and I was too afraid to step out on a limb and jump off a cliff and have faith and do what God said for me to do, I was mad with the people around me that y'all don't. Well, how I'm mad with y'all that you're not giving me a platform? I should take my platform. Really, I'm mad with myself that I'm staying here allowing myself to be devalued. Yes. That's what I'm mad at. I ain't mad at you. I'm mad that I ain't have the courage to tell you, no, thank you. No. I didn't have the courage at that time to step out. And then once I did, I ain't had to be mad no more. I'm not really mad at you. I ain't mad at you. Because I'm living the best version of myself. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Then you don't have to be bitter with nobody. When you live in your truth, you know what I mean? When you're living in courage, you're living in faith, there's no space for you to be mad with nobody else then. And that's what I had to do. And so I could see that, in some of the people, that I've mentored. A young girl asked me, she said, I'm going to medical school and I'm trying to decide if I should be a doctor, if I should be a singer. I feel like being a singer is going to be very hard and maybe I should be a doctor as a backup plan. I said, you should go be a doctor. She said, really? I didn't think you would say that. I said, baby girl, if you got to ask,
right.
It's going to be the hardest thing you could ever think about doing.
That's right.
So if you're a person that needs a safety net and you need the structure of college and a job, please go be a doctor because this may not be for you. This ain't for everybody.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You got to determine if you got to want it like you want air to breathe.
Absolutely.
If you don't want it that much, then you should be a doctor, babe. You'll be happier.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, I mean, speaking of...
I love you, Brother Ali, so much.
I love you.
Honestly, like, I've been so excited waiting for this time for us to talk. Because you fill me up. Because sometimes you know how you just living your life? And you need to be reflective sometimes. It takes time to really be reflective of what this journey has really been. Sometimes you can't see it. You don't got the right perspective because you're too deep inside of it. And so, you also help me to appreciate my journey more, when I see it through your eyes,
Yeah,
I'm grateful. I'm grateful for you.
I mean, you are one of our champions, one of our elite champions. You know what I mean? And when I say like I know Pharaoh Monch, I know Rakim, I know Yasin Bey, and I know Mumu Fresh. You know what I'm saying? That's weird. I can't call you that. I always call you my name. You know what I mean?
That's fine. That's good.
But I mean, it's real, and I'm talking about on so many levels. On the just the artistry by itself, in and of itself. But also, I've been in those spaces where and I've been I've been amongst those people in your congregation that have been healed, and this conversation is one as well. And I'm asking these questions. These are things that I really am seeking to understand, And there are not many people that I can ask these questions, you know what I mean, that will be able to, you know, because like you said, like you are so firmly in your purpose that there are certain things that, you know, that Allah gave you that I'm not going to be able to get them somewhere else because you're the distributor, you know.
And it's like I've jumped out there so many times to learn different lessons by fire, you know. Even like, you know, I appreciate going.
I always think about the hadith, you know, the hadith Qudsi where Allah says, when my servant mentions me in a gathering, you know, like you said, remember me and I remember you. But in the hadith Qudsi says, when my servant mentions me in a gathering, I mention them in a greater gathering.
Ooh, come on.
You know what I'm saying? I think about, you know, your name, and I think about Yasin doing Umi Says, and I think about, you know, Smith and Wesson saying Astaghfirullah, like they have that Astaghfirullah. You know what I'm saying? That like I was in Europe with Smith and Wesson, and they're doing this song, and Astaghfirullah means Allah, may Allah forgive me. And I just think about, you know, this big festival of, you know, we were in France and like places that they just banned the hijab and they don't like Muslims and all this stuff. And they had this whole audience of French-speaking people saying this Arabic phrase, Astaghfirullah, may Allah forgive me. You know what I mean? And I got off stage and I'm just like crying, and like I couldn't even speak to him. I had to like find him at breakfast the next day. But just like when you say Astaghfirullah to a group, to a festival full of people, like I just imagine Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala announcing to all of creation that you're forgiven, you know, for it all. And, you know, what the witness that you bear, the testimony that you give, nobody can give it but you. And we're just beyond grateful to you. And those of us that also not only get to experience you as fans, you know, and I'm one of your biggest fans. But, you know, also those of us that get to be in community with you and get to be in family, you know, spaces with you and get to witness you at crazy hours of the night, you know, the retreats that we do at Iman and things like that.
I miss them so much. I miss them. And, you know, Iman has such an important place in my life.
We're gonna be with Iman and with Rami and Drea Denur and Amir Suleiman and like in Nashville coming up. That's gonna be hard. You know, when we did that song, together, it was my first time having to rap like on a song with you, and I was like, let me just hurry and get this verse done before I have to hear hers. Because I was like, man,
you killed that joint.
No, I was like, how many bars is that? 12? All right, 4 more. Come on. And I just keep looking at the inbox like, man, because we had to do that session on Zoom. I'm just like, come on, get this joint done. Because, I don't want to have to hear yours first and then compare it.
Oh, my God. Man, your verse was powerful. It was powerful, so raw and so real. I'm glad that he gave us that space.
Amir on that record said they claim to hate the devil, but they're really jealous instead. You want the devil's crown. I want the devil's head. They want the devil's throne. I want the devil dead. Yo,
that is so powerful. So
like when you think about the fact that the world doesn't know who Amir Suleiman is, it's just like, what the hell is the rest of this even about? Like, what is the rest of this even for? Like, what is this industry thing that we're supposed to navigate? And Amir Suleiman is like, you know what I'm saying, still trying to
He's
like...
too precious for them. He's
the fact that that's a real person. And I lived with Amir. Me and Amir lived together in the Bay. Like
that line, though, that is forever. It's so timeless. Like, I have said that line in different iterations at different D&I, diversity and inclusion meetings, right? Because there is this new culture, right? And I've been in certain organizations where I'll see the Black people that they put as the gatekeepers for other Black people. And I'm saying, that person don't like Black people. Why they there? I remember.
Or just the idea of like wanting to beat the colonizer at the colonizer's own game. Like,
yes, and
playing
you will
their
be
game is a loss.
They become overseers, and
right.
Oh my God! And you really got to ask, what are you really here for? Do you really want liberation, or you want a comfortable cell? You know what I mean? Do you just want to lord over? You know, because I'm looking at some of the people they got on there. I'm like, I remember that person. I remember when they told me, "Hey, all that Black stuff not gonna fly. You had to turn down that revolutionary stuff."
Suddenly they're Harambe.
Hilarious! It's hilarious. Man. It's like where your heart. That's why to me it's like it's really about where your heart is at, where your mind, where your consciousness. It cannot be about you being a person of color. It can't be that, because that's not enough. Where is your level of understanding? Where's your commitment? Where is your heart? Where, like, what are you dedicated to? What are you willing to sacrifice? What will you die for? Whoever can answer those right questions, that's who in my team. That's who in my community. I don't want nobody else in my community who's not really, really ready to live and die for this thing, who's not committed to our children. You can go. I don't care if you have melanin. You can go. You can go. We don't need you here because you don't believe. You don't want this with every fiber of your body. You're not committed to saving our children. So whoever is, to me, that's who my people is. And that's how I move, man. I can't. Anything else is like, you're a hypocrite. You're a hypocrite. And if we put you in position, you're going to do just what the person before you did because it's about you. You know, you trying to come up. Amir really, he hit that thing on the head.
The Prophet Muhammad said, you know, they talk about beheading, and there's a story that, you know, they were fighting against some people and they were, you know, engaging in warfare, and the enemies had caught some Muslims and beheaded them. And so the Muslims caught the enemies and beheaded them. And the Prophet ﷺ said, why did you do that? Yeah. Like, that's not what we do. Why did you do that? And he said, well, they did that to us. And he said, our enemies are not our teachers. Sadaqa Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Our enemies are not our teachers. Well, we pray Allah give you a long life. And we pray that Allah make us worthy of your sisterhood and of your leadership and of your witness. And we pray Allah give us the ability to just be, you know, good to you and good with you. And we pray that Allah give you success according to the best of your intentions, beyond your wildest dreams for you and for all of the generations before you and all of the generations after you. And we pray that Allah raise you up with the great healers and the great truth tellers and the great sages and the great saints. And we ask that you're protected from any enemy from within and from without. And we pray that nobody can harm you and that nobody can deter you and nobody can detract you or distract you. And we pray ultimately that, you know, that we continue on in this thing together until we are completely successful, inshallah.
Gave me chills on that one. That's an earnest prayer. Thank you, Brother Ali.
Thank you. Thank you so much for rocking with us again on the Travelers Podcast. Please like and share and subscribe and comment and rate. Please spread the word. It really helps the show a lot. It helps this podcast reach people who otherwise wouldn't see it, and we're always very, very grateful for that. I want to say a special shout out and thank you to Mumu Fresh, Maimouna Youssef, our dear sister. Please head to her website, Maimouna, Maimouna, Youssef, YOUSSEF.com, or follow her on social media at Mumu Fresh. And check out her albums and her teaching and her workshops and all of the incredible things that she offers and puts into the world. I want to say a special thank you to Zakat Foundation, special thank you to Unity Productions Foundation, special thank you to Vice Gerent, special thank you to my man Resma Minikim, all for partnering with the show. I want to give a special shout out to Amna Mirza, Mansour Panawala, DJ Last Word, Amir Rahman, my man Ant. Special thanks to Darian Washington. Special thanks to Mark at Medina Hip Hop for designing the logo for the Travelers Podcast. Travelers Podcast is produced by Brendan Kelly, a.k.a. BK1, and is a production of Travelers Media. Peace, love, respect. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.